Okay, so starting on the end right here, we have Jonathan Moore. He's a licensed massage therapist and a nutritional consultant. And if I'm not mistaken, Jonathan, you have your own business, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Lotus.
Lotus and Therapies. It's a natural health science oriented business where we promote mostly just massage therapy in conjunction with detoxification and other ways of improving health.
Can you all hear Jonathan? Do we need a microphone or?
I'll speak louder.
Oh, okay. Or just myself as well.
I'm a tiny man, so I'm used to being soft spoken. I do natural health medicine. I'm a student of traditional Chinese medicine. I'm at the bachelor's level. Just achieved that in natural health sciences. I'm in the process of completing my degree, pursuing my master's in Oriental medicine. I view traditional Chinese medicine as a Rosetta Stone, if you will, for Kemetic or African medicine. There's a lot of relationships that are present between the two, and if given enough time today, I'll try to be as brief but in detail as possible about those connections and how they relate to what we're doing today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Beside Brother Jonathan, we have Brother Minister Patrick Mohammad with the Nation of Islam. Brother Minister Mohammad is actually the representative for South Florida. Is it the regional representative for the nation?
At the moment, it's South Florida, Miami.
South Florida, Miami region. So thank you. Thank you. Beside Minister Mohammad, we have Mr. William Dozier. Mr. Dozier is an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur. Can you share with us the type of business that you're involved in?
Okay. My name is Bill Dozier, and I'm the owner of Dozier and Dozier Construction Corporation. But my real purpose today is to talk about the Urban Construction Pass Academy. I'd love to expand on that in the opportunity to present.
Yes, with the questions we'll be able to talk about that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming. Okay, beside Mr. Dozier, we have Sister Hyacinth Henderson, a financial advisor.
I'm Hyacinth Henderson of the Henderson Financial Group. The firm is owned by my father, Robert Henderson. I've worked with him for the last 13 years. I am a financial advisor. I also do life insurance, health insurance, annuities. We do a lot of education, a lot of budgeting, and things like that. Mr. Henderson has been in business for over 25 years. We have a couple other advisors at our firm, and we see different people, different clients. And I think this is a good opportunity to discuss some of the things that need to take place at a younger age that we need to start implementing at home. So by the time our clients come to our office at 55 or older, or maybe even 60 or older, they'll have some type of knowledge on what should have taken place, or what a budget is, or what credit is, and the benefits of home ownership. And I think that that's one of the ways to build wealth. We talked about our communities. We talked about living in communities outside of ours. And a lot of times we rent instead of owning, and I don't think we realize the benefits of being a homeowner and just other things. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to speaking.
Thank you, Hyacinth. We have this brother back by popular demand. He was on our initial panel on June 8th. A sister over there saying, raise the roof. I understand sign language. Dr. Jehedi Vuai. He's a neuropsychologist for Dade County Schools and author of Brain Matter Matters, Reflection on Childhood Brain Injury and Erroneous Educational Practices. Keyword erroneous. Okay. Do you have your books today, Dr.
Yes.
Okay, great. So your books are with us today. And then on the end we have Ikechi Reid, attorney at law.
I'm so honored to be here today and to speak with you guys a little bit. What you know is that I have my own firm, and within my own law practice, I'm also a member of a minority network of attorneys, a network of minority attorneys, I should say. And so within that network, we have attorneys from the U.S., the Caribbean, and the entire diaspora. And basically, we consider ourselves a full service firm in that sense, so that we try to cover every single need that our people could possibly have. And so if you come to me for a civil litigation matter, it doesn't matter. A couple years later, you need me for a criminal matter, or you know somebody who needs a will or something like that, we try to make sure that we take care of our people no matter what. So I'm glad to be here. See how we can empower people.
So we have this conversation often about our shortcomings as a community. So we know what our challenges are. We know that we lack understanding and knowledge of human rights, law, financial literacy, business ownership. There's so much that we just don't know. But then, as you look at our panel, obviously there's so much that we do know. Right? So the film Hidden Colors talks about the colors that have been hidden over time, our colors, our melanated skin, that has been hidden by design. Right? So our objective is to allow those colors to resurface, because we've been conditioned to trust what is not of us. We go to doctors who don't look like us, we go to financial advisors who don't, because we think that it's better. Right. The service is gonna, right? But in actuality, we have a full scale of services right in our own backyard, right here, that we can use. I personally don't, my doctor has to look like me, you know, because I love my life. But unfortunately, our people they're not privy to that kind of resource. So how do we allow that resource to get back into our community where we can get health care and spiritual guidance and entrepreneur opportunities and financial literacy and law, you know, right at home. So that's I'm really honored to have you all here, and that's exactly the objective of today, to create a forum to allow our colors in our community to just not be hidden any longer. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and just start. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to discuss with the panelists the questions that I have, and then when they're done answering the questions, we will have a Q&A with the audience. So you all may have something to add with the questions that I've asked. You have pencil and note cards at your chairs. If you can write down, note, or jot down anything specific that we're talking about, so that when we get into the audience, you all can have the opportunity to either piggyback, share, or ask a question related to what they're talking about. I'm sorry.
We like the veggie bag off of it.
I like that. I usually have a parking lot. You know, my parking lot, I need to write that down, veggie bag. So if you have anything to veggie back on, you let me know, and I'm ready for that. All right, so the first question is in reference to the video clip, and there is no particular order. In the video clip, Dr. Kaba talks about meeting as a community, gathering the leaders and meeting. However, we need to meet with a purpose. How do we create purpose within a large community to mobilize and build that community? And what can we do to achieve an organized community related to politics, education, finance? And I have a note for myself here that to the Brother Minister Mohammad, I am particularly interested in hearing about how the Nation of Islam has been able to mobilize over such a long period of time. Maybe there's strategies that you'd like to share with the community about what has worked, kind of like best practices. But how do we create purpose within a large community to mobilize and build that community?
Greetings. As a student of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, coming into the Nation of Islam, I am also of Haitian descent. My parents are Haitian. I do speak Creole fluently and French fluently as well. And can everybody hear me?
Can you stand up?
I'm at home here.
Thank you.
Again, as a student of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, I am of Haitian descent. Both of my parents are Haitians. I was born in New York, and at the age of 2, I moved to Haiti. I lived there for 15 years. I went to school there, quite accustomed with the culture. Came back into the U.S. after 15. And there, of course, I got into aspects of things that I should not be involved into until I heard the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. When you spoke about purpose, the thing is that time dictates the agenda. You don't know what your purpose is until you begin to follow a course. You have to be on a journey. Even though it may seem like it's negative, but the purpose, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan teaches us, blessed is he or she who finds his or her purpose in life and is found living it. What is my brother's name who was speaking here? Dr. Kaba. He said something that struck me. He said that I love to do this. So he demonstrated his passion. And with the purpose is that I was not a good speaker. I was actually insecure. I was illiterate. But I had this warrior Haitian passion.
Yes.
But I just needed the vocabulary to go with it. And I found my purpose, which is I went from dead to life. What my purpose is I love to see my people come up. What will I do to do that? The Honorable Minister Farrakhan teaches us the time and what must be done is no longer time for you to sit in the mosque, sit in the church, sit in your organization. It's time for you to go in the street. Go with those who are less fortunate and demonstrate the love that you say you have. So a prostitute that's on the corner, how would she feel if we walk up to her and say, how you doing, sister? I love you. What? I've been called a B and everything else all day long, and you come here and you telling me you love me? So the purpose of us and how the Nation of Islam is successful at what we do without a weapon, without a gun, without a knife, is our love for our people. Even though you Christian, Muslim, whatever you call yourself, I don't care because I'm looking at my brother and sister. That is how we establish what we're able to do. So the strategy has to be with love. Lovest thou me, Peter? Feed my sheep. So what we demonstrate in strategizing in the mosque, for instance, we use the example of integrity, honesty, and to bypass envy and jealousy. We can talk about what the Europeans have done all day long to us, but our problem as black people in particular is that when God deposits an idea into someone who's very productive, there's this little thing that creeps up, that envy and jealousy, and then we find ourselves working against it rather than with it. So what I would like to be part of the spiritual aspect is, as a student of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, what is the formula to destroy and annihilate envy and jealousy? And it's a principle that is very plain and simple, is to want for your brother and sister what you want for yourself. Thank you.
Brother Minister, I wasn't done writing my notes. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so is there anyone else on the panel who'd like to answer? That wasn't just for, Brother Minister. If anyone would like to answer, and I'll circle back. How do we create purpose within a large community to mobilize and build that community?
I guess I'll go next, because I enjoyed Brother Minister's response to that. I think that whenever we finally decide on a purpose for our meeting as a community, one of the first things that we have to analyze is whether or not we are healthy enough to fulfill that purpose. Whether or not we are sick, or whether or not we are in true health of that, and what those concepts of health and illness are. Quite frankly, there's also mental illness as well as spiritual illness, and we have to analyze those, come up with the formula and the medicine in which we can go ahead and treat that illness. I think that that's basically what it comes down to. I don't really think that there's anything more that needs to be said about that. We just need to decide, is the community at large going to be strong enough to be able to fulfill this mission? Are we healthy as individuals? Because our community is built upon the individual back. If the individual, we're only as strong as our weakest link. So if our weakest person is of ill health and ready to just fall back, do we leave them along the side and continue on with the mission, where scavengers can go ahead and harness that illness and that, create a vaccine and an antibody for itself? We can't allow that to happen. We have to go into this mission, into a purpose in full health, 100%. That's my response.
Thank you. I appreciate that response, Jonathan, because, and this is really a real conversation. This is not like, oh, they're going to talk and then we're going to ask, and then, this is a real conversation, because how many people have seen children in the morning in the school system? What do you see them eating? Seriously, my teachers, Mommy, what do you see them eating in the morning? Chips. What else? Hot sausage.
Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew. They're going to school to learn. They're going to school to learn.
I'll add on to that. One of the things that I frequently come up against when I'm treating, like I am an acupuncturist at the moment. I'm an intern acupuncturist, so in a year I will be a physician. And so, I want you to understand that the information I'm giving you is not that of a massage therapist. It's a little bit more. Your basic run-of-the-mill massage therapist is not going to be able to provide you this type of information. I've done a lot of research in regards to the effects of food onto the human body. More than anything else in this day and age, yes, we have dietary programs in place, but these dietary regimens don't take into consideration your eating habits. Assalamu alaikum to the Nation of Islam, and the reason why I say that first is because there is a big discipline when it comes to your eating habits. However, those eating habits are not respected in the community school system. One of the most common illnesses that most children, especially of African American or African descent period across the border, are all dealing with is a condition known as eczema. A skin condition, a very simple, easily treated skin condition. Now, the majority of most eczema is due to either an environmental factor or a dietary factor. So when we analyze what it is that we're doing in our households, for those of us who maintain that clean household, and that's all of us in this room, we understand that we put these products away and we make sure that they don't have any toxic effects, whether or not they're still active in their cleaning process on the floor and afterwards after they dry. We want to make sure that these things don't affect our bodies. So most of the times it's not so much a chemical effect that's happening or that's affecting the human body. It becomes what's being ingested into the body. 90% of the time I watch parents with children and they're feeding their children these snacks that are like filled with food colorings and toxic preservatives, and we're thinking to ourselves, oh, like as parents, and it's not the fault of the parent, it's the fault of our predecessors, so to speak, and it's not even their fault because they're building upon a knowledge that's just common, a sense that is supposed to be common, but it is a common sense, but sense is not a common thing. So we understand that, one, the form of teaching or what it is that we've been given has been something that's just been built on, this is the best that we have and we're going to do the best with what we have to do it with. But we're no longer in that day and age where we're suppressed and oppressed like that to where we can now make the decision for ourselves what it is that we're going to be ingesting into our systems. Once again, on the food level, the majority of all illness starts in what you put in your mouth. As soon as it creates an allergic reaction, and once again, 90% of all the parents who have children that I watch and I train for common allergies and eczema, as soon as the first bit of the snack goes into their mouth, they're already... That's one of the first things. The next thing is that all of a sudden now there's a spike of energy. So you see the child running around, and as Dr. Vuai will go into, when he discusses, if he has the time, as he likes to say, some of the dangers of attention deficit disorder as well as autism spectrum disorders, we see that as soon as these child ingest these foods into their system, automatically their system is on overdrive. And it's like watching grown adults ingest alcohol. It's the same thing, except there is no hangover for these children, and we don't, because there is no hangover, we don't see it as a health issue. We only just see, oh, maybe they inhaled something and their allergies are now acting up. But when they're running around and all of a sudden they're dropping because of the energy spike and they're taking naps, and you're watching your children go to the bathroom and they're not going to the bathroom, they're not expelling what it is that they're ingesting. And this tells us that what it is that we're putting into their mouths is having a stronger effect. So we understand and spread more to the community the effects of like common toxic, known toxins that we're all consuming and have no real idea of how they're affecting our physiology. So if we come into that kind of awareness, once again, we can move forward with a healthy purpose.
Thank you. So we hear purpose is definitely correlated to our health and our wellness. And the minister mentioned also to let go of envy and greed. That was key. So thank you. Is there anyone else on the panel who wants to touch on mobilizing? How do we mobilize as a community. Go ahead, Dr. B. Dr. Vuai, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Hotep family. And Jumbo for my cultural troops. Hello. Well, when I think of the word purpose, one word that comes to my mind immediately is goals. So if you have no goals, you can really have no purpose. I was thinking about the question when they sent it to me earlier, and I was thinking about the historical aspect of black people's struggle in the United States, and there was a period of time where black people were mobilized by virtue of the environmental circumstances. And environmental circumstances at that time and the present time continues to be racism. However, that was a different type of racism because that type of racism was more or less overt. Overt meaning that, you know, you can't use this toilet, you can't use this bathroom, blah, blah, blah. That was overt racism. And so that type of situation created a national mobilization because it affected all black people. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, sir. When purposes are usually developed out of crisis, and I worry because it appears as if African Americans on a whole, for some reason, can't see what the real problem is. And so it'd be difficult to mobilize people who, quite frankly, they can't really see what the problem really is. Even though there's lots of statistics out there that tell us what the problems are. You know, there are problems with health, there are problems with education, there's problems with economics, law, entertainment, the whole 9 yards. So if you don't see it as a people, if it doesn't touch you, and a lot of times, you know, when we're not a community, it seems like, well, if it hits Mrs. Jones's child and not my child, then it's not my problem. And this is where we moved away from the African family concept of what the problem is. And so we are interwoven people, and so what affects one affects all of us, and we need to understand that. By profession, I'm a neuroscientist. I was trained in neuroscience. I was a psychologist who's interested in the brain-behavior relationship and typically have to go beyond his doctoral training and go into medical school to study neurology, basically. That's what you're really studying. And so my interest in children, of course, is the central nervous system, and I can go on about this, and typically this is really not the format because I don't have the time to get into it. But essentially, my concern is children's neurodevelopment or brain development, and when you have environmental antecedents that impact upon that developing embryo in the woman's body, then we can expect to see subsequent problems later on. Whether it's poor nutrition, whether she's dealing with high stress in her life, whether there are difficulties with labor and delivery, and 90% of the time, as I write in my book, 90% of the time, non-traumatic brain injuries. I want to make specifically clear that a non-traumatic brain injury are injuries to the brain without an episode of head trauma. That you can be damaged in your brain and nothing ever touch your head. And so these are factors. When I'm working in the school system now, I work out of the Division of Traumatic Brain and Spinal Cord Injury for the Miami-Dade School District, and I think my days are there are numbered because I'm doing more writing these days and research these days. And so, and of course, the patients that I see are children who have had these non-traumatic injuries. Educators have mislabeled these injuries as learning disabilities, which they are not. They have labeled these children, our children. You have a number of African American children who are in what educators call emotional and behavioral disorder classes, and they are not. Because as I said before, to classify, and if I have to go to Congress and testify on this, they need to change the nonsense, because in order to be classified as a child with an emotional and behavioral disturbance, you must have that disorder, and nobody in the world can explain it. Okay. Now, if it can be explained medically, if it can be explained economically or politically or whatever else, then that knocks the child out of that category. So, I mean, as a brain scientist, I'm saying to myself, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because all behavior is produced by your brain.
whatever experiences that you have, spiritual or otherwise, they're produced by your brain. And there's a lot of research out there that can demonstrate that. All right, so I don't want to get off the topic, but I know you may have other questions. But essentially, my focus of my work is working with children with non-traumatic brain injury and try to teach parents some type of preventive measures that they can do now that can prevent those problems later on. Because once your brain has been injured before the age of 2, and if you have no intervention before age 2, that child will almost never recover. Thank you.
I think we all need a moment of silence after that kind of information, because I'm like, oh boy, we've got a lot of problems out there now. Okay, thank you, Dr. B. We have sisters on the panel as well. So mobilizing, we're talking about the finance and law.
Well, as for me, I think that a big part, actually, of mobilizing is knowing how to maneuver within the system that we are trapped in, for lack of a better way of describing it. And so, if you're driving down the road, there's a reason why you have white lines on each side, so you can know when you're veering off and how to stay on track and get exactly where you're going. And as it relates to our communities, the laws that govern us are those white lines, and I'm finding that even other immigrant communities that come here from other countries are better able to maneuver themselves in this system that we all have to work within, because of the fact that they educate themselves more with regard to the law. So they know not only what their rights are, they know what their responsibilities are, and they know what things they need to do, what things they don't have to do, and what things are somewhere in between, and they have the actual power to make a decision with regard to whether or not they're going to do that in their particular situation. And that's how we can successfully maneuver ourselves through this society to decrease the rate of incarceration, the rate of arrest, the rate of having some type of criminal record before you even get to the age where you need to think about raising a family, getting a job, and setting yourself up for the rest of your life. Because, little things such as knowing our rights with regard to when you're stopped by the police, whether or not you actually have to give them consent to search your vehicle, and how that might or might not negatively affect you. An hour later, when they're saying that they found something, whether or not you actually had something in there, but you didn't have to give them the right to search in the first place, versus fighting a police officer who stops you for absolutely no reason and asks you, "Excuse me, sir, do you have ID on you?" Now that you do have to produce, but if you don't know that and you just feel like you're being unjustly targeted, and then you get into an altercation with the person as a result of that, now what started out where you were the victim of something, you're now basically legally being detained. Now you've given that person who originally had no cause, now they do have the cause to detain you and possibly even arrest you, because you are obligated to carry ID with you at all times and present that to a law enforcement officer when that's requested. And so it's just little things like that unfortunately, in my situation, I'm not as blessed as some of these other panelists, where people come to you because they're engaging in preventative medicine or prevent other, types of situations where you can provide your knowledge or your services before something gets out of hand or before it gets to a negative situation where you're facing dire consequences. The people that I see most of the time have already been arrested or have already had some type of trouble that they're now trying to get out of. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm just glad to be here, because there's a vast amount of knowledge that we as a people need to have so that we know how to steer clear of those traps that they want us to fall into, because they know that even if the charges that they arrest you on the first time don't stick, the next time they do stop you for something, somebody is going to punch your name into that computer and see that, oh, he was arrested before, or she was charged with this before. Whether or not you were actually convicted of it is a whole different story. You know that adage that where there's smoke, there's fire. That doesn't always apply to us. There's a lot of smoke that gets blown at us, because eventually they're going to try to make something stick. So you could have been arrested or detained by the police several times where it might not have necessarily meant that you were engaging in anything illegal, but knowing our rights and what we should and shouldn't do when we come into contact with law enforcement or even within our schools or any other type of situation where those types of consequences are a possibility is what I think is a very important way for us to maneuver our way through the society and mobilize properly. And on the civil side, just with regard to our financial situation, I know that my sister here is going to elaborate on that, but I also serve a lot of clients who, especially because of the economy and the fact that no matter what it is that's going on in our world as a whole and in our country, it always affects people of color that much more. If it's a 10% unemployment rate overall, it's 40% in the Black community, you know? And so I have people who come to me because they need financial advice regarding foreclosure, or they need to consider filing a bankruptcy or some other type of civil remedy that helps them financially. And I find that our people are so reluctant to even consider those things. And if we're from the islands, even worse, because that bankruptcy is a bad word. It's worse than any other four-letter word that you can even think of, you know? And I think that it's only because we as a people have been stereotyped for so long and brainwashed to believe so many of those negative stereotypes about ourselves. And so where you have Donald Trump and Mitt Romney talking about the 40% just want to take, but check it out and see how many times either he or a company that he owns has filed bankruptcy. How many times has Donald Trump filed bankruptcy? How many times have all these Jewish people that are sitting up here owning everything while Black people who create everything and make the road go round are still out there? You know what I'm saying? And it's because we carry that shame with us and think, oh no, I can't go and file bankruptcy. These are my debts. I did this. So if I have to work 5 jobs making minimum wage, then that's what I'm going to do. But those remedies that they have under the law are not for people like me. They're for somebody else who made the same types of mistakes. And those are all false. We need to take advantage of the same exact loopholes that these other groups are taking advantage of to put themselves in a better situation.
Thank you, sister. And I think everything you touched on ties into, and I know I'm just a moderator, I shouldn't really have so much of an opinion, but I think it ties into what everyone is saying, that it's kind of like a domino effect. Everything, you know, if you're eating unhealthy because you're poor, and then you're out there, you're going to get involved in crime. I think they're all correlated, and that's why we have to know, you know, how we can end the cycle. And then that goes right into the financial and entrepreneurial aspect of managing money and working for ourselves. So I'm going to just leave the floor to my brother and sister here.
Piggyback. Veggie back.
Veggie back.
And I don't need work either, so I like that. Veggie back. What the moderator said. I think that every thing that each panelist has mentioned thus far is correlated, it's connected. I wrote down some key points, envy and greed, pride, financial side, and what came to mind was as far as our community, I think it starts at home as far as financial literacy, but it starts with an understanding that you need to live within your means. So the envy and pride and the envy and greed, those words came to me because a lot of times we see what others have and we want what others have and we become envious and greedy and we know that we shouldn't be buying those things, but we work 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 jobs to buy them and we sacrifice other things instead of paying ourselves first. We have something here at the Henderson Financial Group that we always say, pay yourselves first. You pay everybody else. You pay the mortgage company, you pay the light, you pay your sneaker, you pay everyone first. Pay yourselves first. You get up, you go to work, you bring that income, pay yourselves first. Whether it's 10%, whether it's 5%, make sure you pay yourselves first. A lot of times people say, well, I don't have any discretionary income. I just can't see where I am able to save for myself. And another thing that we like to tell people is to, whatever you think you can afford, whatever type of car you think you can afford, whatever type of house, whatever material item that you think you can afford, go for one rung lower than that. So if you think you can afford a $40,000 car because you've done the math and your paycheck comes in on this week and that week, go for a $30,000 car. But that extra money that you could be saving doing that car payment or mortgage payment or whatever it is, to go ahead and pay yourself first. Use that to the side. We talked about foreclosure. Many years ago, I did mortgages, and I had people, this was when the no income, no assets, you just give me your name and your credit score and you can qualify for $1 million house if you wanted to. I had people walk out of my office because if you're on a fixed income, when I say fixed income, I'm saying maybe you're an educator or maybe you're in another field where you know what your paycheck is going to be every 2 weeks. You're not commission-based, you're salary-based. So if you know what your income is going to be on a consistent basis, I'm just not going to do a loan for you that's out of your income. Just because the bank says, okay, well, if you can prove that you have the down payment, we'll take you have good credit, we'll take your down payment and we'll give you the loan. It's only a matter of time before that's going to catch up with you because your income is fixed. You get that same paycheck every 2 weeks, you're not on commission, and it's only a matter of time before you get behind, you have to make repairs, taxes go up, insurance go up. That's when you get into the whole foreclosure mess. I have people walk out of my office because sure, the bank will qualify you, but I'm not signing my name to that loan. Because in me looking at your financial status, I know that it's only a time bomb ticking. Budgeting is something that's very, very important, and I think that this really starts at home. Our children watch what we do. We watch what our parents do. If every month, I don't know how it goes now, but I hear that the new sneakers, they come out, and the children, they line up, and they sleep at the mall a week or a day before to purchase these $200 sneakers. Because every time a sneaker comes out, you have to go to school and you have to make sure you have that. As parents, we have to stop that. We have to tell little Johnny and little Susie, this is not what we're doing. You're not sleeping out, you're not camping out at the mall to pay $200 for sneakers every time they come out, whether it's once a month or once every 2 months. You have two feet, you have a pair of shoes, you may have a second, one for church, one for school, one for dinner, and that's pretty much all you need. So budgeting, and that goes back to envy and greed. A lot of times we do the math. I have seen clients that make $30,000 a year and they make ends meet, while I have seen clients that make $200,000 a year and they have nothing saved. And they tell me that they cannot save anything. When I look at I usually tell people to bring me your bank statements. That little plastic card that you keep in your pocket, we call it a debit card. It's tied to our bank account. There's no more we can't afford because you just whip it out of your purse and you swipe, swipe, swipe. And before you know it, you swiped $1,500 every month out of your account. Instead of saying, you know what, before that money hits my account, that direct deposit, it's hitting on Thursday, on Friday, I'm paying myself first. I'm having automatic withdrawal for this savings account, this investment account, and I'm teaching my children to save. My daughter have a 14, she'll be 14 in August, and then we have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. My 13 going on 14-year-old, she has to learn early. It's not that mommy can't afford it, it's that I'm not buying that. Right. So, and she got into the fashion and counting my money and things and saying, well, we can do this and we can do that. And I says, just because you think that you should have a cell phone at 10 years old, or you think that you should have X, Y, and Z because your friends have it, I'm not training you like that. Because when you're 18, 19, 20, or whatever you choose, when you're out of college, whatever your road takes you, you're going to live off of your income. We had a conversation the other day, and I said, here are your choices. You go to college. If you go to college, you extend you living off of my income. You know, it's kind of like playing grown up. You go to school as long as you make your grades. I foot the bill. If you decide you don't want to go to college, college isn't for everyone. I understand that. You can continue to stay at home in my house. You'll get a job. You'll pay the bill in my house, and you're going to live off of your income. You're not going to live off of my income anymore. That's how it works. That's about the choices that we make. So often we see, even with some of her friends, and I volunteer at the school, some of the kids, they have every game, every gadget, every shoe in the book, because as soon as they see it, mommy and daddy runs out and buys it, and you're raising them wrong. Right. Because when they're 30, when they're 25, when they're 40, they're going to have nothing to show for it. So I think that as a community, we need to start these things at home with little girls. One more thing before I go. My daughter teases me. She had a sleepover on Friday, and her friends, we went to Publix, and she says, well, my mom has a grocery list, and one of her friends said, well, everything that's on this list is buy one, get one free. And she said, my mom doesn't buy things unless it's buy one, get one free. And I said, that's right, so you better pick what you like, that's buy one, get one free. And if not, it's not here. You're going to have another time. So that's one thing.
Wow, thank you.
You touched on good points. And it reminds me that we have to get the job to keep up with the life that we're pretending to live. So then the job is really just to help us pretend. Not really to live right. Yes. So thank you. Sister Carla just walked in, and I wanna introduce her because she's one of our panelists, backed by popular demand. Carla Latimer, she's a consultant on education and development with Catalyst for Change International.
Okay, I'm sorry guys that I was late. It's okay. I had a kid's emergency. I just want to introduce myself. I am a business management consultant, also international project manager, community organizer, sister, mother, friend, and a homeschooler as well. I'm also very African-centered and very dedicated to my community and the building of that, as well as companies and continents. We can't just stop at building ourselves because we got too much work to do. And we all have a spot in this large globe to get out there and be a catalyst for change in some way, to get the ball rolling. It's a lot of money in the room. I tell everybody this and you laugh at me, but I meet some geniuses in my work. And I'm just so disheartened that a lot of us don't have the motivation or the drive to see some of this brilliance that we have here manifest itself. And I think that the number one person holding us back from doing that is ourselves. So I don't want to, speak too much. When Sister Keisha gives me the mic, I'll talk a little bit more about how we can, as a community, begin to drive each other, encourage each other to be a little bit more motivated to, passionately fulfill our purpose. A lot of our purposes need to be in alignment with our business drive so that we can create a machine. When I say machine, I'm speaking of a business machine that generates the revenue necessary to make the changes in the world that we want to see. We create the change we want to see, correct? But we can't create things without resources. And a lot of us in here are very resourceful, but we don't know how to manage our resources, like she said, we don't know how to save our resources, we don't know how to create new resources, we don't know how to transform our resources into other things, which is where I speak a lot with my clients about innovation. And a lot of us are naturally innovators. It's a part of our ancestral DNA. So it doesn't change, it doesn't disappear, it's just locked inside of us. So we have to find ways to unleash this information so that we are able to drive these machines that we need to get our community where it needs to be. It's too much, we have professionals now. I understand the past. I understand that a lot of us have had, issues with slavery that have kept us mentally back from being able to exhibit some of these behaviors, talents, and skill sets that we have. But there's a new age. I just want to ask the question, how many people in here are college graduates? Okay. How many people in here have a professional skill or trade? All right. So as you can see, we're not limited in our knowledge anymore, are we?
Not at all.
We're not limited in our education anymore, are we?
Not at all.
Okay. Do you know that we're in demand around the globe, not just here in Miami? If Miami is not opening their arms to your services, there are countries around the world that will. How many of us have even thought about it? How many of us have even expanded our horizons to begin to think, how can I take my skill, my gift, and place it somewhere that needs me? How many of us are thinking about moving and being immigrants? Anybody think about immigrants? Anybody think about migrating? Let me say that word. Migrating. Okay. How many people are scared to move to another country? And we can be honest because we're all brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
I had a little fear, I'm not gonna lie. And I travel a lot and I'm still scared. But, the fact that we are scared as minorities, I want to say minorities because all of us are definitely African, but I want to say minorities today. We're scared to branch ourselves out across the globe. I don't understand why. Because we're so well received when we come with skill and knowledge and education to other places. They think we're gods. How many of you guys had an experience similar to that? where you went and shared something that was minute to you in your space here.
And there's
Somewhere else, people were like, oh, wait on you, you saved my life today. You heard that whole spiel, right?
Yeah.
Does that not motivate you, encourage you, give you more drive to keep going, to keep moving? And then how many of you same people who had that experience came back home, back to your communities, and it was like, well, I can't get this off the ground, nobody's listening, I can't get the work going. And it might be telling you something bigger than what you want to accept, which is that my idea doesn't work, I don't have the resources, no one is listening, nobody wants my services, I can't get this business off the ground, I need a county job because it pays good benefits. These are the kind of things I hear when I start talking about entrepreneurship. Well, how can I be self-employed and have a retirement plan? How can I be self-employed and have benefits? How can I be self-employed and, have health care? Correct? Is that not some of the concerns that most people have when they think about self-employment? Did I miss one? Safety net. Oh yeah, that savings account that has that extra cash that we don't want. But how do you do that when you have business fees to pay for and keep your machine going? I understand that as well. So I just want to share with everybody and hope to be motivation and inspiration tonight. Yeah, I want to say thank you to her and Gaia. This is so awesome. I want to turn it.
You answered the question and you didn't even know it. You're like psychic, third eye, open wide. No, you did really good. No, you touched on everything. Purpose.
Okay.
Right? Didn't she say, I was like, whoa, she's psychic today. So,
we all have a little of that in our DNA too. So I was here with you, although I was on my way there. I was already, there in spirit. So I just want to, really just encourage everybody to not give up on those innovative, genius ideals that you guys have. There's some money in the room. I'm going to say that again. And I hope it's you. How many people think that they're the ones who have the $1 million money ideal in their mind right now? That's right, that's what I'm talking about. And we need to see all these things happen because community building starts here. It starts here. It starts with us building these concepts into machines and then bringing those machines back into our communities to hire our own workers and also to build community enterprising, which means investment money that goes back into the more building of the new ideals that's going to be coming as well, right? There's levels to this, as they say, correct? All right, so I'd love to answer any questions that you guys have. I'm going to take my seat. And if you have any questions, I'm ready and willing to answer.
that was exceptional. Thank you so much. We're going to open the floor to Brother Bill.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Wow. First of all, I'm honored to be such a dynamic and distinguished panel. You guys are brilliant at it. As a former educator, I'm sitting here second all this in. I learned first. Yes, I am an entrepreneur. I've been in business since 1976. But I chose to use this time to talk about something else that's dear to my heart. I'm the founder of the Urban Construction Crafts Academy. And let me share with you what that is. We're talking about purpose. After I retired from teaching, I taught at the college for 27 years. I taught construction management. And quick story. I remember going over to the city, and I saw every other ethnic group working on our homes with us. And that rubbed me the wrong way. And I went back to school with a passion. And I was going to make 100 black contractors that would kill me. I was going to do that. And my strategy was, if you come to class, keep your eyes open, I can help you obtain some type of license. Well, I don't know what the count was. I lost count. But after I retired, and I've been kind of fortunate in business. I'm not rich by no stretch of the imagination. Talking about purpose, I felt a strong call. And it started, I have to give Brother Julian credit for this. When we go work out on Saturday sometime, we're talking about what do we give to the next generation? What do we give to the youth behind us? All I know is construction. And from the hands-on component to the academic side of it. And the notion of, why can't we teach a young man to build a house? That eliminates him from being in debt with the mortgage if you build your own house. At least reduce that. Well, this passion was so hard, and this purpose was so hard on my heart, that I went back to the office, and I started calling some of my friends that are retirees. I said, man, I got to do this. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I have this vision that we must see through. And this is like, this was during the worst economic time. It was 4 years ago, September 10th, 2010, was our start date. We opened a 501c3. It's called the Urban Construction Crafts Academy. And what our whole premise is that our generation will pass to the next generation the skill set that was passed to us. We are builders. We talk about DNA.
That's right.
Construction's in our DNA. We build the pyramids. You know, we know that. So don't tell me we can't learn math and science. It just hasn't been presented right. So our strategy is that we teach every single class. Our program is holistic in nature, very similar to yours, because when you come to us, we take you as you are.
That's right.
We don't discriminate. If you can walk in, but there are a few rules. First of all, we don't charge you. None of our students are ever charged a dime. Secondly, none of our teachers are paid. If you want to be a part of this, you can't accept money. You got to give it from here. You got to be certain qualifications. You got to be good at what you do, and you got to be willing to transfer it to the next young man coming behind, or woman coming behind them. I heard the brother say on the table, they can tell when you're serious. When you walk and say, man, put your pants up. I'm not getting paid. We don't take grants. We didn't want that money. This is self-help.
That's right.
This is self-help. It's holistic in terms of, we talk about how you present yourself, how you speak, how you respect your brothers and sisters. That language you use in the streets don't come in here. If it's religion, you have to stay long. If it's a fast, it's got to go. That's the first test. We're not trying to make a group of clones. We want to make sure that you are disciplined enough to want to be transformed. And if you're willing to get your haircut, mandatory bi-weekly, then you do that. What we've seen happen is, most of these guys have never had anybody in their life to tell them that you got to do this. It's love. It's tough love.
That's right. That's right.
We have class 5 nights a week.
Tough love.
We have 2 scrap weeks. If you miss more than 2 classes, unexcused, you're not no longer part of this. We don't have time to waste. There's somebody else who can use this spot who want to do things. I heard the sister talk about saving 10%. Some of these guys don't have GEDs. Before we throw them a test, we're saying you got to pass this. Come on in, man.
That's right.
Let's work with you, and then we test on which we've already given. And so we have an economic system. How do we know that they can read? We have them. Part of our mandatory reading is The Richest Man in Babylon. The economic system. Saving 10%, paying yourself 10% of what you earn. Put that in your bag. We have some success stories, and I don't want to take them all the time.
Go ahead. You have to.
But we have 6 of our students who have license now. 3 of them are convicted felons.
This is
They didn't get a job working at the school, but didn't get a contract building the school.
Come on now.
This is who we are. You know, our community has a wealth of talent. You know, this same community in here, college residents has some of the best craftsmen this Miami has ever seen. And a lot of these guys are semi-retired. They're home. When I call them, I say, man, what are you doing? Why, you got a job for me? I say, yeah, come back. Come back and give back. The first thing is, man, I don't mind giving to them, but I don't need no disciplinary problems. So before we start, we allow them to become the man that God intended them to be. We help them be the man that they are. Part of our discussion is not bricks and sticks. Part of our discussion, are you paying your child support? Are you children in your life? We can't talk about that if we take it for granted. You know, and they initiated, started in every class. They initiated that.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times we close the books, we get in circles. Nobody look back at nobody. We have to look everybody in the eye. We say yes, sir, and no, sir to each other.
There you
yes,
go.
ma'am, and no, ma'am. Out of respect.
That's right.
I
That's
can look in your eye and say yes, sir, to you. That doesn't make me any smaller. Any less than. Our goal is to take back our community one house, one building at a time. We are in the process of, when these guys get their license, you reach back and hire somebody else. You must hire from the academy first. You have to give back to those who are working with you. They're all brothers. And they use the motto, steel sharpens steel. They are their best disciplinarians. You know, some of the things that we talk about, we have our model discussion, is, man, I've never had a man in my life. One guy told me, and I'm sure you don't mind me telling you, he said, I had my first child. First of all, I never knew my father. I had my first child when I was 18. My mother died when I was 19, And his mother died when she was 20. Here I am, like 21 years old, trying to raise a girl. And nobody ever taught me how to be a man. You know, so we now trying to give him somehow to feed his family. That's what we were saying, man. Get a skill. Earn it for yourself. Learn to earn. Our motto is we enter to learn, we exit to serve. To serve our own community. Part of the requirements, no, we don't charge them. But part of that reconnected to our whole community is that before each one graduates, they must do a community service project. You must go back and find some elderly lady, black, that you can help renovate her kitchen at no charge. Go ahead. I'm not going to give you a test to find out whether you can paint. Go paint her house. Show us how good you can paint. And give a love as part of it. Every time we leave a project, we leave with a gift, a treat. Because as that tree grows, they understand that the love that we planted also grows. That's just part of what we're doing. Just shortly, we have no money. Our only fundraiser is a golf tournament. By the way, these guys play golf every other Friday. We're not trying to make Tiger Woods. We're just trying to expose them to another part of life. Because in our business, in construction, most of our deals are done on the golf course. So if you're going to be a contractor, you better know something about that. You don't have to be, again, a professional player. Learn the etiquette. And golf teaches you a lot.
That's right.
It teaches you not to cheat. You know, it's just you against you, man. You want to go for that bad to cheat? You know, if you cheat on that, you cheat on the contract. So these are some of the things that we're teaching. Every Friday is dressed for success. Every other Friday. Whether they're mandatory for their shirt and tie. A lot of those guys never had a towel, but now they walk in class with pride. And they tell us that when they leave the hood, the boys step back and say, man, they're going somewhere. Let them on through. So they take and ask them, say, everything you learn here, teach somebody else. That helps you retain it. Turn to your brother, your kids, anybody. Go for what we discussed. Every subject matter that you can learn in classroom, we can teach you through construction. Teach you your history. So once you build the origin of the pyramid, who built it? You're learning about you. Come on, man. Come on. Once you understand that they took math and science to do that, now you're motivated to learn math and science. And so all we're doing is reaching them at their level. We have not captured the light in the bottom. We just gave back love. That's all we have. And all I know is good infrastructure. That's all I can do. Thank you.
Sounds like a little bit of construction is all we need. All the answers right there. Thank you. Yes.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
By the way, Dade County Schools gave us one room to operate in. We've been in business for around 4 years. They just gave us our own school. They gave us the $500 building to use our laptop. That's the building we started with. We pay $1 a year.
Can you repeat that for like? We didn't really hear what you said.
I said we started in a classroom. We asked Dade County School, we don't want any money. We don't want you to pay our teachers. Give us a space that we can operate in. And they gave us one school at Turner Tech. Starting in August, we'll have our own school. They gave us an elementary school that was shut down. So you guys, and we offered to fix it up. That's part of our training. We'll fix it up. Just give it to us as it is, and we'll take it. We'll pay you $1 a year. That's all we're looking for. So they were giving us the building on 27th Avenue and 63rd Street. Yeah. That would be our new home project.
You know, I'm here and I'm defying odds. I'm a mother of 3. But I feel like my community is my community. So I'm here just fulfilling my duty as mommy and my duty as community member. So I have the baby on during the time. So this is really awesome because everything is kind of culminating. All right. Everything is culminating for all of us. How many of you had a chance to watch Hidden Colors 1 with us as a group? Okay. How many of you had a chance to watch Hidden Colors 3 with us as a group? Okay, great. So I can speak. How many of us have actually seen Hidden Colors 1, 2, or 3? Anyone, if you didn't watch? Okay, great. So for those of you who don't know, Hidden Colors is about who we are as a people today and historically, the historical context to our experiences and why everything is by design right now. It's an awareness about our experience in this country because we're still amongst our oppressors. right? But we've learned how to operate and function amidst our mental health because we're mentally ill as a result of our experience in this country through slavery and then the savagery of Jim Crow laws and everything else that has lived on since that time. So we're dealing with being a byproduct, but our youth don't understand the reality of how we can break away from the cycle and the experience of slavery. And this is what our panel and our community now is showing us, that there's a way to get out. There's a way to get out. And we have the formula, like Carla said, there's wealth in the room. There's wealth right here. But I wanted, because I heard a few things when you were speaking. Motherless daughters, fatherless sons. That kind of stuck with me. And so our mental health, and I kind of want Dr. V to reiterate some of what he discussed in our initial panel discussion about our condition right now and how it relates to us from that historical context.
Thank you very much. Basically, it's a very complicated subject. It's a very controversial subject because it involves many areas of human activity. So let me just begin by saying that black people collectively have not recovered from racism. I mean, you haven't recovered, and I don't want anybody leaving here thinking today that I'm suggesting that you're damaged in any way. That's not what I want to leave you with. But I do want you to think about some things. We know what racism is. Racism is a belief system held by a group of minority people on planet Earth who believe that they are superior to everybody, including God himself.
Come on.
It's a weird mentality, but because I don't use the word, I used to use the word white supremacy. I have since stopped using that word, and I use the word white extremists now. Extremists, because they are to the extreme. Nobody is above God, so they can't be supreme. So if I have that mentality that these people are supreme and whatever, it makes no sense, but okay. So the belief system that black people were subhuman, that black people had no souls, that black people had no history. Well, the first conquest was, of course, to separate people from their natural environment and bring them to a strange place where they could not really connect to anything. Okay, so, and what I mean by that is separate from family, separate from culture, separate from language, separate from custom, separate from religion, and then rebuild, if you will, rebuild the person from inside out. Well, I had to think about these things because I said, well, there's, in mental health, if you will, or in education, there seems to be a dichotomy that continues to exist between, for example, white achievement and black achievement, and we still hear these things today that black children are still lagging behind their white counterparts. And I've been hearing these things for so long, and I was thinking to myself, well, you know, why is it that we can't close the gap? Well, this problem that I'm talking about right now has been explained from a psychological perspective. They have been explained from a sociological perspective, but they have never been explained from a neurological perspective. You know, so we have, as a scientist, we have to understand, well, if white children are achieving beyond or above black children, then the scientists ask themselves, well, this is a strange phenomenon that we need to investigate these things. All right, so let's investigate these things. Well, let's take a look at the impact of slavery, for an example. Well, the impact of slavery was that not only was it necessary to chain the black man, physical chains, but it was also necessary to chain his mind. That's right. You understand? To chain his mind. And so let's then create a scenario, or let's create an environment that will slowly subjugate him to the point that we no longer have to watch him. We can just sit back and let him kill himself or kill his family, so on and so forth. And the first thing that they did was took away your memory. Now, it may seem insignificant because you said, well, what does memory has to do with anything? Memory has to do with your mental health. So if you don't know who you are, that's one of the signs of mental health problem, that you don't know who you are. Now, if you ever go to a mental institution, one of the first things that they ask you in crisis, especially in psychiatric institutions, is what's your name? Where are you from? What's your social security number? What's your address? Now, amnesia, okay, which is a neurological condition, amnesia is basically an absence of memory. Now, you have to understand that amnesia is a neurological basis, however, it can also have psychological consequences. You understand? Now, I can recreate you in an environment. I can recreate you in an environment so that your knowledge of who you are is very limited in terms of your origin. So if I take away your history, take you from your origin and replace you in a new environment, then I can recreate your memory by saying, okay, this is where you came from, really, and you have no connection with anybody else. So memory is very, very important because as a neurological construct, it gives you an identity, a source of understanding who you are. Okay, now let me get back to this black children, white children dichotomy. When you create laws, okay, when you are developing in your mother's womb, the most critical period of brain development is the first trimester of pregnancy. That's like 3 months. The reason is because the brain and nervous system is developing during that particular time. And within the first trimester of pregnancy, women often don't know that they're pregnant. You understand? Now, when you don't know that you're pregnant and you're doing things or putting things in your body that's unhealthy for you, it's going to impact upon your child. Well, you understand? So the mother is, one of the questions on the discussion was poverty. How does poverty impact the child? Well, poverty can damage your brain because we have taken looks at children's brains who come from impoverished environments, and we noticed that the cerebral cortex, you have 6 layers to your cortex. We call these cytoarchitectonic structure of your brain. So the gray matter of your brain consists of 6 layers of individualized cells, and these cells have different functions. Now, we've noticed, for example, that children from impoverished environments have thinner cortexes, which means that they are not able to process at a higher level. Okay? So therefore, that will impact reading, that will impact math, that will impact writing, and so on and so forth. Now, if you take a look at the brains of, I didn't know they were going to have a slide. I was going to show you some pictures, but next time you guys got to tell me these things because I know. See, pictures worth 1,000 words. That's right. And so those of you who are auditory learners, then you're going to retain a lot of what I'm saying. If you're a visual learner, you're going to forget. So next time I have to have a multi-sensory approach. All right, so when you take a look at the brains of children who are mentally retarded, if you will, the cortex is very thin. They're not fully developed, which means that the neurons that were migrating to gray matter, if you will, those cells somehow were not able to get there. Now, I need to make a distinction between mental retardation and mental deficiency, because in Broward County, let me say this, mental retardation only occurs 1 to 2% in the general population. In Broward County, you have 65% of African American males who are mentally retarded. Wow. Okay, and you can check the statistics. Well, that blew my mind. How in the world can that's against science, because in the normal population, 1 to 2% of the time. Well, that can be explained because the fact that you have very few black psychologists in Broward and Dade County. And in Dade County, I'm the only neuropsychologist in the district, doctorally trained neuropsychologist in Dade County. I'm in. So I have to constantly battle for our children to protect them from the onslaught of being misdiagnosed, the onslaught of being labeled lazy or stupid or whatever, and all these things we have to constantly deal with, to the point where I have to, to the point where I'm like, we need more help, So those of you interested in neuroscience, embrace neuroscience because it's something that you'll be, that you probably enjoy. Okay, when you write a law, when you create laws that forbid or prohibit a child from reading, if you create laws that forbid a man from raising his family, you can damage the person's brain. Because now let me talk a little about genetics very briefly. Genetics 101. Your genes are necessary for your survival because they help you to adapt to your environment. Now, if I put you in an environment that prevents you from maximizing your central nervous system development, I can permanently damage your brain. This is perhaps what happened to to black people as a result of genes who are responsible for creating in your brains areas in your brain that's necessary to acquire reading. Well, if those cells that are originally designed for the functionality of reading, and you create laws that this brother can no longer learn to read or write, guess what his genes will do? His genes will readapt themselves and to those reading cells are no longer needed, and so remember that. You understand it? I think some of you understand this. Yes. So now his genes, get this now, his genes that have now decided that we no longer need reading anymore will be passed down to this child. Without her having to do anything, it will be passed down automatically. So then by the time she goes to school and she's struggling with reading, one of the reasons is because it has been a brain problem. That's just okay. So in closing very briefly, these processes I'm talking about right now, I can go much deeper than this. I'm just giving you an overview. This can explain why our children are failing to maximize our potential, and this is why we need these forums. One of the reasons that we don't mobilize for helping us understand these things, quite frankly, is because we have not accepted neuroscience as part of our overall intervention package. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So that was strategy on my part. I wanted him to say that because I want our panelists. She's going in. Okay, she's fine. I would like our panelists to respond to that with respect to the solution, because it's so easy for us to sit here and talk about, well, you need to do this and you need to do that, or you need to, and not that the solutions that we talk about aren't on point, but how deep do we go? How deep do we go to the solution? Yeah, I'm going to drink some water. So really it's like, where do we start with such a deep history? Such a deep history with the child, with the neuropsychology, the neuroscience. Oh, we have someone in the audience. Go ahead.
I'm not on the panel.
That's okay. Go ahead. I'm going to open it.
I feel moved to speak. My name is Cheryl. Some of you have met me, some of you have not. I'm an educator, and I've worked with some of your children. But you made the joke that it sounds like all we need is a little construction, and that would help to solve the problem. But when I heard the joke, it really has more knowledge in it than.
No, it wasn't a joke.
No. But what I'm saying, there is a movement in the field of education right now called project-based learning or deeper learning. Those types of schools are the schools that are being funded right now. And those types of schools basically are not drill and kill, stand at the board, talk to students type of information that you're getting. Those project-based learning schools take a center upon a project, and then as the student is constructing the project, they are also learning the academic content in relation to what they're building. And most of those projects are done out in the community. Our communities know this in the form of homeschooling or in the form of programs like what you're doing. But all around the country, on the West Coast and Northeast, there are project-based learning schools that are being highly funded and not highly attended by most of our students. Our students are still sitting in rows and then taking standardized test scores while they have proven scientifically that the best way to educate a child is not that. So I'm saying it because I just got off of a plane the morning of the Hidden Colors movie, and I went to the Hidden Colors movie. And I came from a project-based, the premier project-based learning school in the country, getting a degree from that school. And so Bill Gates is funding them. Walmart is funding, I mean, all of the big money that goes into education is now funding project-based learning. It is not funding learning that comes as a consequence or traditional pedagogy, because it has been proven that that is not how children learn best. So one of the things that you're saying, how can we do this, how can we work together? What I've been working on constructing before going there, while going there, and in coming back are project-based learning schools that are project-based, African-centered, and academically accelerated for our children. Those three things combined, and there are other educators in this room also who are constructing those same schools. Exactly, because that's what it, the school that I came from, the students, and these are elementary schools that I took my son with me, they built hovercrafts out of wood, plastic material, lawn blowers, just basic physics that they're learning. And they're building these hovercrafts, sitting on them, and riding them across the school campus. And they're learning math, they're learning physics, they're learning aerodynamics. They have books that are associated with every project. They have writing that is associated with every project. But the reading, writing, and arithmetic is ancillary to the project. And they're learning these things in the context of the project. Just like if you're building a building or you're building a house, you're learning math, you're learning science, you're learning the physics, you're learning the geometry. So those are the types of schools that are being built in this room. But one of the things that we have difficulties that we've come in contact with, myself and the brothers who are building these schools, is that we didn't know that we could go to the school board and say, just give me one classroom. You know, as a formalized institution or trying to start a formalized institution, we weren't given a classroom. We weren't given the building is usually the number one impediment aside from the money to actually do it. Right? So
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you. I appreciate that input. I want to get the panelists to answer because we're running out of time, and then we're going to go to the audience so that you all can participate in the discussion. So we're going to get back, if you can hold on to that. And so I'm going to go. That was good. But thank you so much. We're going to circle back into the audience. I saw that you had something that was needed to say, though, and that's why I came into the audience. But the original rule was that we're going to get the panelists and then have the audience do the Q&A at the end. So thank you for that so much. Brother Minister, I know you have something to say. Yes, sir. Yes.
I'm so moved, first of all, but I have to come from a point of scripture. Yes, sir. Abraham, in the book of Genesis, fell in a deep sleep that was horrible. In it, he saw where his seed was taken from their land and going to a foreign land where they served their masters for 400 years. In that dream or the nightmare, God promised to Abraham that he himself would come and free that people. As I'm listening to these beautiful brothers and sisters, from the teaching of the Most Honorable Elijah Mohammad under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Ms. Farrakhan, he teaches that you have to know when you're at war. Until you know you're at war, you don't know what strategies to use to fight. So all of this that we're talking about right now we need this, we need that, and this happened, and that happened, and this. What is it pushing us to do? Not no guns, not none of that, but with the mind. I heard my brother said that people come into America, or my sister alluded it, they come into America, they come from different cultures, and they advance themselves. What is the foundation that they have to advance themselves? They have land. I'm going to repeat that again. They have land. Now, what happened in Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921? When Timothy McVeigh, those of you who remember, he blew off the federal building. I watched because as a student of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan and the science that my brother was talking about, and whenever a tragedy happens, you have to learn how to rise above emotions into the thinking of God to see the hidden messages. The reporter said, we just had a fact. Everybody's panicking and running and crying. They said, this is the second largest bombing in history. Well, common sense would say, which one was the first one? When you go and research what happened in Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921, this is where black folks got together, had their own land, their own businesses, married with the native people, got into the oil industry. Then the wise one and the young one among us in education started advancing with attorneys and financial advisors to begin to create what was called the Black Wall Street. We are at war. And how do you be in war in this day and time? Because we can't trust no food from Publix. We can't trust nothing from Winn-Dixie. We can't trust the educational system. We can't trust their doctors. Who can we trust? We can trust God and one another. So now in that process, what do we do? How do we move forward? The Honorable Minister Farrakhan teaches us, when you have your own land, you can produce your own needs. Praise God. Everybody in here got clothes on. Everybody got socks on. Eventually, some people want pure whole milk after the mother. You want a fresh cow that is not diseased and poisoned. We want our own chickens. So if we get our own agricultural land and we begin to produce what we need, do you know that from the cow you can get a deodorant from a cow? The film that we use in pictures, you can get it from the brain of a cow. There's so many things that the cow produces, so we need our own land. We need our own school. We need to separate. Now, I'm going to say that straight up. But how do you separate and integrate? The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that if you look at the Chinese, they come from China, they come into America, learn everything on the integrational system, and they separate with their own community. The Korean come and do it, the Brazilian come and do it. So how come we black people in America, who've been here for 400 years, can put our resources together, get what we need, feed one another? You're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're a Jew, you're an African, whatever you say you believe in, we gotta eat, we gotta drink, we need a place to live. So we are at war. The war is on business, the war is on law, the war is on finance. Good God Almighty, the law is on the spiritual realm. I close on this note. The book of Ecclesiastes says, we fight not against flesh and blood, but we fight against principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. My sister says the Jews own everything. See, Farrakhan didn't say it, so we can say he's anti-Semitic now. My sister bore witness. So, do they own everything? Do the Vanderbilt and the Rockefellers. A white man says that the Rockefellers are the elite of America. They control the entire United States of America. And the Rothschilds are so wealthy that they could feed every single human being on the planet Earth and provide food, clothing, and shelter and not be broke. I see the fire comes out now. What is the Nation of Islam here for? The Nation of Islam is here for us to come together, and after our sister said there's money in the room, you're going to need an army to protect the family. And this is what the Nation of Islam is about, because we fear no one but God, and we believe this time around, if they come against us like they did in 1921, then the God of Jehovah, the God of Moses, all of them will tear this down.
Gets changed so much. I just want to touch on everything that you just said, and also touch on a couple of important points that you made, because you were answering the question about, I guess, what do you do when you're at war? But I think something that maybe is so elementary that maybe we haven't addressed it is, number one, you have to know when you're at war. And I find that all of the knowledge, all of the information, all of the assistance that you want to offer people sometimes goes unclean, it goes wasted, because they don't even realize that they need that. And you being a part of the nation, and also you guys in your own respects as being educators and, just nurturers of our community. I want to commend everybody in this room who has and is continuing to do so in their own way, educate our people. Because that is the biggest trick that was played on us, is teaching us that, number one, we don't need anything, and if we do need something, it's our own fault for not having it. And I mean, one of the reasons why we're not even able to come together and pull the strengths of our own communities is because we see ourselves as less than, and therefore we see our brothers and sisters as less than. The other communities that come here, the Jews and the everybody else's who come here and know how much strength and how much power they have together as a group, don't have that stigma that we have. They don't consider themselves beneath anybody, because nobody has ever looked at them and told them and beat it into them that they are less than everybody else. And so that's the reason why a room falls silent when you say we need to separate. It's because the instant thought is, oh damn, how are we gonna survive? You know what I'm saying? Mention the other communities, because I think that when people say that, you're picturing, okay, let's all of us get back on the boat and go find a spot in Africa or somewhere else that's foreign to all of us. But when you put it in terms of, okay, the Chinese come here and they have their own little community, they don't none of us besides how much fried rice we want to buy from them. That's right. None of them don't care how many designs you want on your nails. For the Cubans, look at them. They come right here on the boat, and the only time they give one hoot about black people is when they want us to align with their causes so that they can get political asylum to come here. Not even for the Haitians, they don't return the favor. When y'all are coming over sometimes on the same exact boat as they are. You know what I mean? And so we need to recognize that separating ourselves is not always so much in literal terms. You can live next door to some white people or some whatever other nationalities, but as far as how we spend our dollars, how we educate our children.
I want to touch on the genetics part while it's still somewhat fresh in everyone's mind. As Dr. Vuai said, like genetics is a major factor in terms of like how it is that we as people grow up. One thing that I think needs to be emphasized, you have two parts of genetics. You have a dominant trait, you have a recessive trait. regardless of whether or not that recessive trait is expressed within the genome, within the organism, the trait is still there. So in regards to, like, as Dr. Vuai was saying, in regards to like non-traumatic injury, yes, we are having children that will be involved with this genetic information also being very much present on the very surface. However, we also must see that in order for us to treat, and as this is where I feel that like disease is reversible, because I watch this happen. I do this on a regular basis, is that these type of things are very much reversible. Within the genetic code, you have another chemical or you have something, a corrector. And just keep it simple. You have a corrector in the genetic material. And what it does is, whenever an injury occurs to the genetic material, yes, the body the cells will reproduce information based on that genetic material. However, if it's not, and that's only if it's done, if it's not corrected, or the injury continues to thrive. So, like when we have like environmental factors that are playing against the person or against the organism, you know, these things go ahead and help to continue to perpetuate the expression of this gene. However, when you remove the thing that poisons and contaminates it, we can go ahead and begin to see the correction begin to happen. So this is where it is that we have to also see that the things that we're learning within this society, whether you want to consider it as a dominant society, I don't consider it as a dominant society. I see that we who are oppressed or who are all in this room, there are too many of us, regardless of our skin tones, who are feeling that there is no oppression placed against us, regardless of race, regardless of creed, regardless of ethnicity. And we are all battling the same thing. All of our children are having the same things happen. However, what we are witnessing within the communities of others is that as they assimilate, they are still able to perpetuate or continue to promote their cultural and traditional aspects of their livelihood, because that is what allows them to thrive. They have come into this country and they beautified these aspects and these characteristics of themselves. However, this is something that we as African people have yet to do. We have yet to begin to commodify, because that is what they're doing. If you don't want to look at it as a selling out of your culture and of your traditions, that's honestly what's necessary. The Chinese have done it. The Indians have done it. If you don't believe me, look at Kung Fu movies. How many of or not even Kung Fu movies. Look at the Chinese restaurant population. They've made it to where like the majority of our loved ones will go to their restaurants regardless of the fact that they know the fact that there is monosodium glutamate, which is a known genetic inhibitor. It's a cancer building agent. And we still allow our loved ones to go, and we don't boycott these things. There's so many things that are built up against us, where it's like, where do we begin to start? Well, we're not starting in the one place that it matters the most. If we have wealth in this room, then let's go ahead and start attacking these people from the wealth perspective. We need to stop consuming the things that is contaminating our genetic material. You have to understand that as Africans, with dark skin, with melanin, regardless of its content or its proportion and ratio within your system, it still exists. And so when your body absorbs sunlight, as Dr. Dr. K would like to say, you know, what is our greatest source? What is our greatest source of energy? And it's the sunlight. So when you look at your skin tone, and you're thinking about how we all know that the darkest color on the spectrum, being black, absorbs the most light. What does this tell us about ourselves from a genetic perspective? From a scientifically, biological perspective, it means that our metabolisms function at also a higher rate too, which means that the disease will affect us even faster. It's the reason why Black Americans are number two. Honestly, we're number 2 behind white men in terms of how disease affects us. Because white men are still trying to copy and emulate the very things that black people do. The very thing, because they want to beat us. But not only because they want to beat us, but because from a genetic point, they understand that from black, you can create white. The genetic mutation of albinism, which is lack of pigment within the skin and within the eyes, is nothing more than what you now look at as your modern day European. They have adapted through genetics and through evolution over a large period of time into the very thing that we see them as. So should we be looking at them as saying that white supremacy is a very bad thing? It's not white supremacy. You can't say white supremacy because whites came from blacks. So that means that we were wrong in the first place. So we must go ahead and begin to correct our material by looking at what it is that our children are doing. We as parents are not educating our children. We allow the very thing that oppresses us to persist and to kill us on a very steady basis. Now, what also needs to be understood is how we go about doing that. Our school systems are filled with an education that's necessary for us to succeed. We can't look and say that we as black students are not being taught. The same thing is going, you look at the Chinese. We give the Chinese so much credit in terms of their level of intellect in thriving in the schools that we say that we are not. But they're being taught the same level of education and they're thriving on the education that they're learning from the same school systems that we are going to, that we are attending. So how is it that the information is wrong? Yes, we are not being taught, but we are not also assimilating and accepting the information as it comes to us at home. We must identify and begin to become specialists in these fields, these educational fields, construction, masonry, medical, financial, legality. These are things that we all are learning in the educational system. However, your level of interest in these things does not equate to what you like. Intelligence, we understand as intelligence neurological, from a psychological perspective, and this young lady right here can tell you more about that, but from a psychological perspective, you have learned behavior. And the learned behavior is what begins to express itself on a genetic level if you allow it to persist. If you allow it to persist. So we stop allowing it to persist and we start saying, look, I don't send you here to eat this junk food. In your home, how many people, this is where it becomes most key. How many people in here have children? How many people in here control, no, keep your hands up, please. How many people control the diet of their children? All right? How many of the people in this room have their diet so instilled into their children that when they go out the door, they strictly adhere to those dietary habits? Now notice that the majority of the hands that are in this room went down. It went down. That goes to tell us that what we're doing in the home is not sticking to our children. So we have to reinforce these things before they even get out there. Education starts in here first. It does, and before it even starts in the home, it starts in the womb. As Dr. Vuai said, the way that our women are eating, the things that they consume will affect the genetic material and how it is that the child comes out and its ability to learn. If we go ahead and nourish these children in vitro, in the womb, with the things that they need by educating ourselves on the very processes of sexual education. Sex education must be taught and retaught to our children in our community. The reason why is because we have become so censored in our aspects of what it is that we allow ourselves to be associated with in regards to sexuality. We allow a commercial image on BET and the rest of every other channel in America to portray us as extremely sexual, perverse, lower vibrational, thought process thinking. And the reason why they do that is because we have not evolved or allowed our genetic material to absorb the things that are going to feed it to allow us to think beyond it. We have to get out of the old thought pattern. We have to. We have to start consuming the things that will not kill us, things that will build us up. And that's where it starts, you know? We have to start looking at what it is, what genetic factors can go ahead and start killing us off and start killing those things out. I'm going to leave it at that. It's a lot more.
I hear the passion in his voice with that. Thank you so much. Okay, so we want to open the floor to everyone. So what I'm going to do is have everyone on the panel give us a closing remark. And then we're going to go ahead and open it to the community to actually engage, or just say, you know, if you have something that you'd like to share, or if you have a question about something that was discussed. Sister Carla.
I just want to touch on a few of the wisdom. I'm like, whoa, this is powerful stuff. I don't know if I was ready, right? It's a lot of power in this room. There's a lot of brilliance in this room, and I just want to touch on my perspective of some things that were said. The brother here, Dr. in neuroscience, I love that. I love the fact that we have people who are in key places to disseminate the necessary information that we need in order to not only scientifically, but psychologically track the success that's about to change when we create our new systems. That's important because we don't have advocacy in those areas. Like you said, we don't have enough black psychologists, we don't have enough black science scientists to talk about our science and our psychology. So what ends up happening is we get pinholed into other people's standards and other people's sciences, which are not ours. So we need that. We definitely need that. The sister here, sister, thank you so much for speaking. I really was taking in a lot of what you were saying. As a teacher, as somebody who works in the field, you mentioned project-based learning. I want to get into the discussion that a lot of what looks new is very old, and also ours, that now has been recreated and sold to the masses. For instance, people are going hoopla about Montessori. We've been teaching like this for thousands of years. But if I opened up Mohammed's daycare and said that this is how we roll in here, and I don't use Montessori attached to it, then my prices increase, or are expected to increase, correct? That has a lot to do with the way we create our systems. And I think that because we're in not our own system, we as a community haven't recreated the system. So the sister here brought up, she touched on points about other cultures coming in. Other cultures who come in and take advantage of the American dream, which is really the American illusion, but the American dream have their own system before they even get here.
Right.
They come with a system, a plan, and a strategy in place to attack. Their role is to be a spy. How many people have seen the movie The Spook That Sat by the Door? It's one of my favorites. And I rewatch it every time I go to a corporate meeting. I'm joking, but seriously, I have to remind myself of my task. Sometimes I get called to service corporate white companies. But I need the money because a lot of where my money goes is back into my community. I buy black. I encourage black business. I do a lot of that. But while I'm there, please believe me, I'm not just there servicing them. I'm there observing their system because I need to see what works and what doesn't work. And I need to see how we can apply new strategies to what we're doing wrong because we do live in their system, as you said. We live in their system. It's hard to separate without a plan or a strategy. So we're trying to create a system within a system. So we have essentially a microcosm within every system until we can develop that microcosm and take over and create a nation, like these brothers here do. Self-determination is required when you want to, make moves. Nobody is going to allow you to do what you want to do until you determine that we are culture, we are group, we need protection, we need legalities, we need our own education, but that requires all of us to come together as a group and create a system for that. So this brother talked about this system that he created. That is exceptional, and I'm so proud of him. I would love to know but that's where we lack a lot of our education, is creative systems. We have some brilliant people who have great concepts, but after a few tries, that system fails because they don't understand structure. They don't understand how to create a system that works for our communities. As a business management consultant, that's all I do is go in and blueprint and create systems for people. And when I come home, I'm heavy with a lot of people's input and data that I'm breaking down like, whoa, this is so overwhelming. Sometimes I get overwhelmed with my work. But when I'm at home by myself, all that happens here is, well, how can I create a system for this person to be successful? How can I create a system for this person to be successful? But as a community, I don't have people to align with to say, well, how do I create a system for all of us? So a lot of what we need to do is create structured systems that are sustainable to be able to build this infrastructure we're talking about. Community enterprise doesn't happen over one night. Building a nation didn't happen over one night. Black Wall Street, sure enough, didn't happen overnight. That was generations of backbone stress, hard labor, hardcore labor that was channeled into a system, and the system was developed and grew so that they were able to bring more people into their system. And then what happened? They created a machine. That goes back to me talking about that machine. Because now nobody can stop it because it's already moving and it can't be stopped. And that's where a lot of people go wrong in their business development and planning is they lack the structure to drive a machine that cannot be stopped. So by the time they start getting revved up to go, boom, something happens to crash the machine and they don't want to get back up on it. How many people have had that experience? Have tried a venture, an idea, a project, something, they had it so conceptually mapped out, they tried it, had the right people in place, got it revved up, and as soon as one risk, one issue happened, one problem, what happened? Fell to pieces and they never picked it back up. Do I have anybody in here who has had that experience? All right. That talks about our ability to create structured, sustainable systems. We don't have a system, and we're trying to run our own mission within someone else's system. You can't do that. If you want to serve black children, you need to find black people like yourself and teach your children. Get out of that system. Create a system for yourself to do what you want to do. Nothing's holding you back. It's so funny when I talk to clients and I'm like, so why you didn't do this yet? You know, I have clients who come to me with brilliant ideas. They have all the resources to do. They have everything ready to go. Well, I don't think people are gonna like it. Or, you know, I could teach, but, you know, I need a job. I'm like, but you can teach. So create a job. Teach it. And they're like, yeah, but then how am I get paid? How am I get benefits? The same questions that you brought up. People having this anxiety about detaching themselves from the system that was created for them to be a part of. How many people in here have worked with someone and you know you made them more money than they made? All of us been raised our hands. Because without you working in their system, they can't maintain income to keep the machine running. So how do you break that system in half? Remove yourself. Because they need you. What's the first thing we do when we want to break a system? When we get, you know, disgruntled and we don't like the system no more. We against the system. We boycott it. What else we do? We strike. And what happens? Shut down for the day. Shut down. What if we all decided, let's strike, create our own system, and shut down white America? What would that look like? Let's talk about it. What would that look like? What's necessary to make that vision manifest? What does that look like? It would require all of the teachers in the room to teach for themselves, which is not hard. Because how many people in here are sending their kids to tutors every day? How many people in here are teaching their own programs? How many people have their own products? Who told you that you was a teacher, first of all? Let's backtrack a little bit. Who gave you these titles? Who created these titles that we're using, claiming that we are? Because I had a sis tell me one time, well, you're not a teacher. If I'm advising and I'm teaching, why am I not a teacher? Because I'm not under the teaching school system.
Certified.
So they can't track the information that I'm giving, and they can't stop it when they want to, and they can't rid me out of their system if they think I'm going to break it.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? So if I want to teach, I teach. And nobody can stop me from doing that. And if I want to attach a fee to that, I can. And those who want my information will pay for it. Correct?
Yes.
So don't let no system tell you or tire you or cage you and tell you that you can't do what you know essentially is your purpose. And if that's your purpose, do it and do it well. And create a system to keep doing it. And the system needs to include your children. So that when you teach them how to do it, even if they don't want to do it, they can teach somebody else and have to work for their system. You know what I'm trying to say? So we need to create a system that we want to see, create the change in the world that we want to see. Stop allowing the system that we're trying to break away from to title you and cage you into their system. That's how they got us. That's how they got us with slavery. We built the system that they now say is the American dream. We're our neighbor. And we all in here talking about the same thing. It's about our efforts and the energy that we put into someone else's dream. Take it back. You have your own dreams. You don't have time to go to work anymore. You got to work for yourself. How you going to work for him to work for yourself? So now you got to start thinking of sustainable ways and systems to create with the people who are in place who can fund the things that you are doing in your community. This brother got a building.
That's right.
This brother gonna need some help with some teachers. All right? Y'all need to start talking to the brother. Y'all need to start talking to other people. And we need to come on and build this community. And as we get money, we need to have a system in place. They talk about trickle-down economics. We need a black trickle-down down economics. We need our own theories. We need to create our own sciences, our own psychology, and we need to back it. I'm tired of talking about the assessments and standardized testing.
Yes.
You know why? Because we didn't create our own yet.
Right.
And if we have people with PhDs, we have these scientists, we need to create that. What's holding us back? What stopped them from creating their standards? What stopped them from creating their assessments? Nothing. So why are we not creating our own? We're just talking about the fact that they're making us test under their criteria and we don't have an alternative to give as a solution. That's our fault as a community.
Yes.
That we keep allowing our kids to go through the system. And we haven't looked for or created a new system. And we got too much money in the world. And we have too much brilliance. Too much money in the world. It is, definitely. And as you start to create your systems, you think about your brother and how they can tie in. It has to be in the form of a catalyst approach. A catalyst means that you are a change agent. You come in and you are the catalyst that abrupts the change that you want to see. Correct? Well, the catalyst is linked. A catalyst cell is linked to other things. Understand? You need to create those links, those catalyzers. If you want to make change, you have to link with the appropriate people and systems to make the change you want to see. We do real good at that with networking and social media. If I tell you to share a comment, you can do that fast. How many people are you sharing your services with? How many people are you talking about other services with? How many people do you connect? How many people in here use social media for the right reasons? How many people in here use your social media and connect money to each other? How many people in here have people making criticisms all day about the school system? Have you ever sent them a tutor? You ever talked to a parent who told you they can't stand up? I hate the school my child goes to. Have you suggested someone that you have that is better? Are we sharing the black businesses in the community, or are we committed to ourselves? And another thing that I want to say just lastly is exclusivity can also serve the purposes of oppression. We can't create these exclusive black groups in our community and think that because we're here, we're all like-minded, we just gonna work on our own stuff, right? That we're being community healers and we're being community organizers. Correct? You understand that? Right. And I see a lot of that going on. I see a lot of little niche groups popping up on the side, but then when you try to bring them, you're like, they don't got the same views as me. We gonna stay over here. All right, well, you don't serve the purpose. You're oppressing us too. Because if you got answers and you can't share them, brother, come on. What are you doing for? Right. All right, so how we get out of the exclusivity box? Let's not be exclusive. I'm not Muslim, but if my Muslim brothers need me, I'm there.
Well, we're going to need you.
I'm there. You know what I mean? I'm actually helping some Muslim homeschools get off the ground. I like anything that is going to help our people. I give my services to everybody. I don't limit them. Because guess what? If I serve a white man with my services and he pays me to serve my community, I ain't serve white man, I serve me. Right? I might have gave him what he needed, but I might have took what I got from him. Sometimes. And that's what this brother was talking about. The fact that we cannot negate that we need some of the information and tools that they have to be able to maneuver in their system. So let's not get detached from that. We need certain things from them. We don't need them, but we need some of their information, just like they took ours. So don't get it twisted. They stole our information. Let's go back and take ours back and take theirs, because we're working and moving in their system. We need to know how to maneuver and break it. That's what they did with us. Right. Correct? Did they not learn our system and found a way to break it? We need to do that. So if you're working somewhere and you have not, I'm sorry, I'm about to tell y'all some real intel. If you're working for a company and you never looked through their files, you haven't looked at their templates, you haven't downloaded their information on somebody's disk, took it home and put it in a box for later, something is wrong. You a slave. You're labeled. You need to be a spy. This is your in-between job. Because your real job is to come back to here. Right?
How many of That's powerful. And how many of us are the creators of of those documents and those files? Raise my hand. Yep. So, you know, it's the in-between. How you doing? You want to say something?
Because I created a simple called Rubicon.
What is it called?
Called Rubicon.org. Basically what it is that we have black people actually get capital. I actually worked in banking system for 5 years.
Okay.
I raise capital. I travel to all the Africa and Hong Kong, everywhere. And what happened is that I create like a business model. So we got a lot of people passionate about starting businesses. And the whole concept is start businesses and boycott. So right now we actually did a demonstration. Shut down this, I had a friend of mine who actually started a health store, black businesses. So we got guys to actually boycott the Korean store. And so everybody got some guy with flyers and said, listen, don't go here, go here. And so the goal is to do that everywhere. And so before we do that, we actually want to start real businesses. So we got people, professional attorneys, people do straight marketing. So we doing that we started in South Florida, but the vision is to actually go global. So I'm trying to do that like full time. So we started that. So I'm trying to build. We just started probably last month. So I want to get people involved about it and give you more. More content.
Thank you.
Business cards yet?
Yeah, that's not business cards.
This is perfect. Purpose.
Right.
Purpose happening.
I'm proud, brother. I was
Yeah, purpose happening.
Have we collected people's information before they leave like that?
We have a sign-in sheet. We have a sign-in sheet, so we'll share across the information.
There's a sign-up sheet there. We also have other African-centered business also where the refreshments are on the table there as well.
Yes.
And also invite all the panelists to, once we're done, to share, because I'm sure you're going to get a crowd. So also, you know, if you have business cards, flyers, please also share that.
All right.
It's going to keep you busy.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Sister Carla. Thank you so much. Brother Minister, would you like to make a closing remark?
Yes. If you notice that I refer a lot to my mentor, my spiritual father. If you notice, I refer a lot to my spiritual mentor, my spiritual father, who is the Honorable Minister Lotus Farrakhan. Yes.
Thank you so much.
And one of the things, my closing comment will be on something that sparks the mind, like he says. He says that you have to be awakened to know that you are at war so you can participate. So the first thing we have to know is knowledge of the time and what must be done. Self-improvement is something that we need among ourselves in order to advance. In the Nation of Islam, we are on a course of study. And the self-improvement starts with self-examination, self-analysis, and self-correction. This is an everlasting journey. So the scripture says that if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and here's the key part, heal their land. So God is giving us a criteria towards success. We can't come here and we're gonna do all type of business and engage and still be Negroes. May I say that again? A Negro is a dead person. It starts with the mind, like the doctor was saying. So the first awakening is with the knowledge of self and our Creator. When I know who I am, and I know who the Creator is, then I know who I'm looking at. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, and this is a powerful statement, it's not black supremacy, it's just the truth according to Kings.
Yes.
He says, whenever you're looking at the original man and woman, you're looking at God.
That's right.
So we are the father and mother of civilization. Everything came from us. And brother's right. We have to correct this wrong because the Caucasian man came out of the ground germ of the black man, but he was put here for a purpose. Everything has a purpose. So what we have to do today, brothers and sisters, in solution, keep in mind that if a man will not treat you right, you can expect that man to teach you right.
I like that.
I'm going to say that again with your mind. Drive the point. If a man will not treat you right, you can expect him to teach you right. So why we keep going to the same pretending school system, thinking they're going to teach us right and our children when they don't even treat us right? So we have to organize, mobilize, galvanize, and make a sacrifice to do something for ourselves. Lastly, there is the most important thing that in the Nation of Islam, a brother and sister can do, is this: to give his or her word. And we have a lesson that says, have you not learned that your word shall be bond regardless of whom or what? And we answer, yes. My word is bond, and bond is life. And I will give my life before my word shall fail. I vow to you today, though I just met you, that I intend with my very life to fight for the unity of our people. The one thing we have been doing, we know how to do disunity and everything that is in the negative, but we have not fought for unity. I just want to be a student amongst the panels of great minds to have that spiritual value and drive towards doing something for ourselves so we can be respected. Don't nobody respect no Negro. They're killing each other in Miami Gardens. They're killing each other in Liberty City. I'm tired of going to mothers crying. All this week, this is where we've been, the Nation of Islam. Consoling mothers, children dying. I thought my baby was going to come back, and they're dying in the street. And AK-47, young man, my brother, with pants sagging, they got no jobs. They think that all they're doing is killing us because they got nothing to do. Well, our brother got something for them to do. So now we know, when we get there, we can say, we know a brother who can fix you up, black man. Pull your pants up and be somebody. So I vow, as a student of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, to fight for unity. Not just in unity in words, but whatever financial means we have to support a cause. So if we can start a bank account, if we can start towards a goal, we vow to donate to that cause as long as it's for the liberation of our people. You got the backing of the nation of this.
Brother Dozier, Will, would you like to make a closing remark?
Just briefly, thank you so very much for this.
Yes, we're here. We're going back too.
Yes, we're open. We're here to serve. Again, we started taking applications. Our website is urbancca.com. urbancca.com. And again, now that we have a new facility, we can expand, we can offer more. There's never going to be a charge to the schools. We invest in them, they invest in our community. Before they leave, they got to go out and do a community service project. And again, we target the older women in our community because they're the ones that's obviously been victimized, so we got to give back. Some of our guys robbed them in the past, now it's a chance to give back to them. So that's how we heal ourselves. That's all we really trying to do. And we target the black man because everybody kind of kicked him to the side. That's our brother. We put him back to the head of the house. You see the
Thank you.
In closing, I just want to touch on what the sister over here said regarding realizing and recognizing that we are no less than the white people or the other cultures or ethnicities that are around. The only difference is they were taught to think that they were better than us. And that really touched and touched me personally because for a lot of my classes, a lot of my professional designations in the financial industry, the classes that I go to obtain these licenses, I'm always maybe one of two. Always. In a conference of 2,000 people in January at the Western Diplomat, it was me and another black woman. And one of my recent classes that I went to for professional designation, I was the only black, the only female. And people always treat me like I'm some sort of genius when I'm amongst them because they can't figure out why I'm here. Why I'm with them, and I said, how are you studying? How are you reading this? You work and you're married and you have children, and how are you? And it goes back to the power of reading and the power of realizing who you are and the power of education. They cannot understand why my black self is in class with them, with a husband, with children, and with a job, because I have the ability to go home and read and educate myself. They don't understand it. They don't understand it. And as I start communicating with them and having conversations with them, and I realize, well, your job, your corporate bank or wherever you work for, they sent you here and you failed the exam once and this is your second time, and they said if you don't pass then you're going to get fired, and you still don't learn, and you're still telling me that it's too much for you to study. Oh, you feel like you're entitled. You feel like once they fire you because it takes too much time for you to study after a long day at work, then you'll just go and apply for another position because you're entitled to that. And that struck me. It was an eye-opener for me when I attended that class recently. And I just want to say that education is paramount. A lot of times they aren't any better than us. They aren't any better. It starts at home. Educate yourselves, educate your children. Realize that if they all gave us new skin and everybody had blue skin, it would be a different world. The playing field would be level. It would be different. Self-analysis is another big important one that I wanted to talk about. I think that we all should spend some time doing that. I know we get caught up in daily living and things like that, but we must realize the bigger picture, like a couple of panelists touched on. There's a bigger picture here. I know sometimes we get caught up in redundancy and doing our day-to-day activities, but look at the bigger picture and realize that we are at war and everything that we do today has an effect on us. And I'm very glad that I was invited here by Chauncey, and I had a great time. Hope to see you guys. Thank you.
I want to reiterate to you all before I pass it down to the brother that if you fill in the sign-in sheet, we're going to be sending an email with all of the panelists' information, website, everything. You all will get all the information that's happening here today. So as long as you fill in the sign-in sheet, you'll be in touch. It's at the door. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. What a powerful panel. I mean, I feel like I'm at a buffet.
Buffet it is, brother.
I mean, and I'm so happy that the addition of this story.
Oh man.
I truly say that in all honesty and sincerity, because I think sometimes what we fail to address often at forums like this is that spiritual side. You know, I mean, we are spiritual people, we are religious people. No one gave us religion, no one gave us spirituality. And so I spent a lot of time reading the scriptures, the Bible, of course, the Quran, of course, I've studied the Quran. But I've also, because I am from Africa, I spend a lot of time reading the African scriptures, and it's unfortunate that many of us, we're not conscious of because we've never been exposed to them. But when you read them, you'll find some of the most sublime, some of the most spiritual and intellectual, at the highest level of intellectual thought that you can find. In my culture, as Dr. Tozer will tell you later, from our culture, religion and science was one. Come on. I mean, there was no separation between science and religion because they were one and the same. So I'm very happy to hear this brother talk about that spiritual side. Go back to God because that's where you come from. You're a godly people. I want to make this very brief. I just jot down some notes, and I want to comment on the fact that, you know, this sister said that she was the only one. I wrote down, since my undergraduate program, I've done graduate, undergraduate, doctorate, postdoctoral, and beyond, and I've only had one professor who was black, and that was my undergraduate. For my undergraduate, I was the only one from my undergraduate on. There was no other black students but myself. Okay, especially in neuroscience, I mean, there was none. And don't get me wrong, I certainly, I've met some brilliant professors that taught me very well, and I'm thankful for that. I'm certainly thankful for the knowledge that they have given me. You are a beautiful people, and in your brains, you have a chemical in your brains that is called the substantia nigra, or the black substance. These neurons are melanin-producing neurons that not only contribute to skin pigmentation, but they also have a very profound impact upon your mental health. The lower levels of the black substance in your brain, the higher the risk factors for mental retardation. When you have lower levels of substantia nigra, you lose your ability to be sensitive or become one with the environment. For the African believed that God was in nature. And because he believed that, everything that he did became sacred. Everything around him became divine. Now, when you have lower levels of black substance in your brains, you lose the ability to work within nature. So that nature becomes something outside of yourself. So therefore, it becomes easy for a person to pollute the environment because he has no connection to the divine. He has no connection to the divine. So when we embrace religion and science, science simply means a matter of discovering more knowledge. I mean, that's what science is. A lot of people are afraid of it, but don't be afraid of it because science came from you. Confirmation. So you can't be afraid of it because it came from me. That's right. Now, science and religion is very interesting to me because the African found God through science. And when he found God, it was through that's how he became more religious. Because the more he studied, the more he said to himself, he said, well, these things that tend to be orderly, not only on planet Earth, but in the universe, there has to be a divine imperative behind it, and that divine imperative you call God. Thank you, God.
That was a whole dissertation.
I'll send you, I'll give you yes.
Thank you, Brother Minister.
It's an honor.
I am just so honored to be here with all of you guys, and I just said to him, you know, it's so good, I don't want it to end. And so even before the doctor got up and spoke, I wrote a note to Keisha basically asking her if she would put it out there to find out if there's any way that we could create some type of like think tank so that we could all meet on a monthly basis along with whoever.
share our story. Because there's a story behind everything.
Yeah.
Each of us, we have a story to tell. It's our life journey, And I think every life experience that we have, it leads us to where we really ultimately need to be. Right?
Yeah.
Gael, I've known Gael for about 12 years. But we haven't seen each other over the course.
Two babies.
2 babies later, I was invited to her home this year. And it was a divine intervention. It was her time and my time. It was what we call chemistry. Right? So chemistry is when you put 2 things together and it mixes well. And you get an end result.
Right.
What you all are today is the end result of our chemistry. Okay? I heard someone say steel sharpens steel.
Yeah.
That's what's happening right now. I mean, I would have these dreams about this very moment and this experience. And then I come into this sister's space and she's telling me she's having the same vision. And I'm saying, we don't know what it should look like or what the process should look like. I don't know the answer. I've had women's empowerment groups. Some of the sisters are here from the group. I've done all kinds of things trying to work to this place where ultimately, it was the vision, and I just did not know. And then the fear, false evidence apparent real, right? And fear comes in the forms of people. You'll have people that come in your space to stop you from that very drive. Okay, we don't understand the power in our words. Someone will come in your space and utter something to you, and they don't know that they're either building you or breaking you down. Oh my gosh, I have seen Satan in so many forms. And it's just like, how do you have to ride the tide. You got to ride the tide and drudge and drudge. And so we're here because we ride the tide. We're here, we've ridden, we roll, we ride. I don't know the proper grammar. Somebody help me. Yeah, we're educated. Sharon, what do you say? And so, it's, to have the nations be here with us. I tell the story because my grandfather was a Garveyite, but he worked with the Minister Farrakhan, and because Minister Farrakhan used to go to Jamaica a lot.
That's right.
And my grandfather was there. He was going to the meetings, and I never really understood what that connection meant for me in my life. And then Sister Dawn and I spoke, and I felt the connection in that very moment. It was like, oh my gosh, So to have you all here and to share the journey and to be a part of it, and for Keishi, I've known Keishi forever, and for her to share that desire to want to keep the momentum going, I don't know, we have to find a purpose, right? And for the momentum to be driven by that purpose. And I'm so thankful for Sister Carla because she keeps reminding me that you have to make a sustainable goal. You can't just get up and say, I want to do this, we're going to meet. It has to be sustainable. So I'm so glad that we have the players in the room and so many people who are willing to do this again, because Dr. Kaba told us, don't talk about it. Say the date. When do we meet next?
That's it.
And we're here by his guidance, because he spoke to Gael and I. Dr. Kaba spoke to Gael and he told us don't stop. He said continue. That's right. He said don't stop. So we're here because we're having a post meeting to his visit, because he told us to do this very thing right here. And if we had allowed any other kind of energy, we wouldn't have done it. But you just got to ride the tide.
Right.
So we're going to open the floor to everyone in the audience. And I want to start with Sister Cheryl because I cut you off.
Yeah,
sorry.
just really quickly.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
There are educators in the room. 2 groups, myself being one of them, that I can think of that have separated themselves from the system and made a commitment. And the homeschoolers as well.
Well, Cheryl,
and made a commitment to
thank you. Not to cut you. Could you introduce Dr. AK when you're speaking? Because I want him to speak.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And made a commitment to build systems. I said with myself as
Thank you.
The other one are Dr. AK and Google in the back. They are starting an elementary school, Muruge International School of Self-Knowledge. Muruge International School of Self-Knowledge, MISSK, and that will be starting in August. And that will start to educate our children in August. Myself and some of the parents in the room did a summer program last year that we're hoping to continue again this year called Journey to Success. And so basically what I'm saying is there are educators who have separated themselves from the system and made a commitment to build systems. So and I'm gonna put this out there as not as a suggestion, but as like maybe an asking. Does it make sense for us to, everybody has an initiative and things that they are doing, for all of us as a group to get behind one initiative in that month and push that initiative into a systematic way of getting going, and then have our meeting about that we have built and look at what we have built, and then get behind MISSK in July and really push as a group towards getting that set up systematically in a way that can keep going. And maybe do that with someone's initiative every month or every 3 months. What I see is that when you can see the thing in front of you that you as a group have built together, whether it be a house or whether it be a school, when you can see it and it's there and the children or the building or whatever it is, it creates a momentum and a passion that says, this is real. This goes beyond words. We are doing it. So, and because we are kind of atomized, doing our own pocketed things in our own ways, and I'm not criticizing that at all, but I'm wondering if we can come forward with our initiative as individuals and say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, and then as a group, get behind that once a month or once every 3 months and really set up that thing in a systematic way to start.
I want Carla wants to respond, and I want to encourage that, Cheryl. Thank you, because this is why it's called a think tank. Because that's what we're doing. We don't know. We're just putting our thoughts. So I appreciate you posing the question, because that's why it's a think tank.
That's a real layered question, so I'm going to try to break it down as best as I can. Yes. Yes, you do definitely need to place a system that will continue this behavior. Yes, I do. And I believe that Sister Keisha and Gael are working on creating a system to be able to provide you guys with more stuff. But she's not limited, and the community is not limited to only her. We need more people in your respective communities to do the same. We need more people to find spaces to do the same. Okay? This is one regional area. It's black people in every corner of the earth.
Yes.
Literally. For instance, I'll give you an example. I had a client tell me, well, I want to live around black people, but I don't want to live in the hood. And I said, wait a minute, I'm confused, because there's black people everywhere you go. So we have to start thinking like that when we think about creating these systems. You're in a particular area. The people in your area, or the people who we know who are close in that area, who will support that initiative, will gladly send them to you, gladly market it, gladly initiate it with you, gladly push it on. But what about the other areas that are lacking? So the system that we need to build needs to be interlocked with other people to supplement our systems. So yes, you need corporate relationships. Yes, you need advisors. Yes, you need scientists. Yes, you need teachers. Yes, you need business consultants. You need all of that to create a structured, sustainable system. It's one thing to come up with a concept of a strategy. It's another thing to build sustainability. Understand? And that the only thing that can build that is time. Time and assessment.
But you have to start. But you have to start. So like my group, and it's not even a group at this point. It's really small.
Select individuals.
Myself and some parents who are trying to get started in 2 weeks. Like that, we can do that. And
So
we
let's
can
start
try
with
to
this
push
question.
towards
Let's
that.
start with
But
asking.
having, or MISSK, start trying to start in August and then having a meeting this, in a couple of days. They can do that. But
Let me ask this question.
yeah,
What is
if you
it
don't
that
start, you can't have a system.
What is it that you need to drive your system on? Or what is missing from the system that you have now that you need the community to aid you with? And if we know what you need, then we're able to aid you. It's one thing to say we need, we all want to save the world. We all need something. But itemizing what you need will make it easier for you to get it. because now the people who can't service you will go left and the people who can will go right. You understand?
So
What do you think?
A part of, say, the group getting behind my initiatives that I want to start in 2 weeks.
Okay.
A part of that would be sitting down with you with my list and going over it and saying, okay, these are the things that I need. Knowing that in this group, these things could come from him or these things could come, and the next day I give him a call, and the next day I give him a call. So it's not like we're all outside building a house like we would if we were physically constructing. But we are putting our energy, our prayers, our efforts, and our talents into that one thing for that particular period of time. No one's stopping the other things that they're doing.
Exactly.
It's just that we have committed in energy and in service to, nothing stops because you focus on one.
Okay, so
All other things go concurrently, and that one gets built up faster, and then that group now puts its services to help someone else get to their success.
In business, there's a concept of reciprocity. If you want people to commit to your goal, you have to show some form of reciprocity. People don't give without receiving. We don't like to give without getting something back. Even when we get a donation, I'll share it. When we get a donation, we expect something in return, correct? Right? Even if it's not, and what I'm saying is not material gains. It could be just love, like he expressed, or just the result or the change. But there's a level of reciprocity in everything we do, correct? Yes.
Correct.
Compensation doesn't have to always come in the form of funding. It doesn't have to come in the form of money. It doesn't have to come in the form of material gain. But there has to be some level of reciprocity and agreement. If you want someone to drive your initiative, what are you giving that person in exchange for driving it? That's where the system creating comes in. It's a twofold thing. Consumers expect something from the people that they pay for a product, correct? The people who are putting their product on the market expect something from their consumers, correct? You cannot develop a system without thinking twofold. When you have something to offer, then you have something to ask. We never ask for help without having something to offer the person who is helping us. When you go to live at someone's house for a day or two, is it not respected in our culture? And I'm speaking specifically cultural relevant. We can talk about a lot of different corporate structures that do the opposite of what I'm saying. But today, I'm speaking in a culturally relevant term. Okay? Everybody understand that? So for instance, you go to spend the night at a relative's house. For the weekend, you bring your whole family, pack up, and you say, oh, we got a place for you to stay here. What's expected? Let's talk about cultural relevancy. What do we expect?
Dinner.
Name some things. Dinner, access to water. That's what we expect as the guest, correct? Now, the person giving you the resources, what do they expect in return?
Keep their house clean, respect their house.
See this list of just minute things? Nobody said money, but there's a level of reciprocity that's expected or people don't feel fulfilled.
The reciprocity that is gained is schools that teach our children the knowledge that we want them to have.
Local initiatives. And the
Jonathan,
discussion is
I'm
real
sorry.
easy. Just local initiatives. You have an initiative. Dr. AK's got an initiative. You guys just take the time out to, as she says, reciprocity. Promotion. That's what you're looking for. You need advertisement. You are in a local area, so promote in your local area, asking of the assistants for Dr. AK to promote your local initiative because it doesn't meet or it's not in the same geographical location as his. So and that's what we need. We're a community, but we're spread out. We're dispersed.
And we will push people to your
connect all of that together by saying, I have an initiative. This week is my week to be at the forefront, to be the initiative in the spotlight. Next week, I will go ahead and
I wasn't
reverse that.
asking for marketing.
Hold on, let me help facilitate, because that's why I'm here.
Okay.
When someone who has from the panel offers a suggestion to the audience, it is from their purpose, their expertise. You don't have to receive it. That's why it's a conversation. So it's not a battle.
Right.
Right?
No, that's not.
No, this is not to you. I'm saying this in general. This is not my first time moderating, and sometimes that may happen. This is not specific to you, love. I'm just setting the forum so that we can move forward, because this is productive, right? Sharing is caring. Iron sharpen iron. So I want to say that we all should take notes, because whatever Sister Carla is saying, she's trying to edify build up on what you're asking, right? So it may not be, what she's saying may not be the answer, but we don't necessarily have to rebuttal in that moment because she's just offering based on what she's hearing. And then you can be clear with the question, after she's finished.
And I just wanted to address it from a consulting standpoint.
Yes.
The best way that I can address it from a business standpoint is this. Concepts don't come up that easy. Concepts come up as quick as, snap. But the development of a concept takes time. You don't know what your consumers want you to reciprocate yet. That's a part of the planning process that you're about to undertake. You won't know until you have consumers what they expect. Correct?
Yes.
Y'all would agree? So when you're in the cycle of putting your initiative together, you'll start to develop a concept of where you're weak and what the consumers seem to need back in order to support your goal and your vision. I'm not just speaking on a consumerism level either. I'm talking about staffing as well. I'm talking about assistance as well. I'm talking about promotion as well. You don't know until you start to promote what the people who promote it for you are going to want to return you. You understand? This is the part of the building the process of systemizing something. You have to create a step-by-step system. Instead of asking, you suggest. I'm going to suggest doing this for you. What could you give me in return?
Right.
So instead of saying, well, how can, say this is what we're going to do. Who would like to be a part of it? When you ask broadly a question, you'll get everybody participating, but they may not be as committed to your goal. And that's what you want. We're talking about commitments and sustainability. We don't want people to help and then not help, and then tomorrow you're depending on the help that you had yesterday to keep driving your machine. So I don't want to give you any advice that would push you in that direction to say, oh yeah, let's keep doing the meetings, and from the meetings we could drive your initiative, because if the meetings start to slowly subside because people have lives and have different agendas, correct? I don't want your initiative to stop, and I don't want your initiative to subside. You understand what I'm saying now? That makes sense? So I don't want to give you a notion that that will be the driver to your goal. I want you to understand that you have to think sustainable and in a systematic way. Amongst the people who are already planted and committed to your system, you guys devise a plan, a strategy, and a hardcore system, and then you ask the people to assist you in getting it done. But you'll have a list of what you need. I tell my clients all the time, don't go and ask questions to anybody unless you know what you want. For instance, they'll be like, oh, well, I want to talk to the sister. She seems like she has a lot of knowledge about so many things. What exactly do you want from her knowledge pool? She may give you 5 minutes of her time. But if you're just talking, I just want to know you, you missed the opportunity to get your question.
So I'm hearing you say that we need to be clear in our goals.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what we need from each individual that we're asking to service us.
Right.
Understand? That makes sense?
Yes. The sister here had something that she wanted to say, and then I want to go ahead and invite Dr. AK to talk about the MISSK initiative on his own with the information that you have. I believe you wanted to say something, sister.
I just want to ask one alaikum for those readings. Let me speak upon you. I just want to say that I am in awe of everything that I heard today. And I got to move.
But that's my queen, by the way. That's
right.
Everything that I heard today, I've heard it before. I've heard everything related to how you to live. I've heard everything about trying to come together. When you asked earlier in the beginning of your session about how many of us want to travel, and we're not afraid to travel to go and submit our services across seas. But we have a symbol in the Nation of Islam, or emblem in the Nation of Islam, where the most honorable Mohammad, he had a hand from our brothers and sisters here in North America stretched across the globe to reach our brothers and sisters across the globe in other countries. So I've heard that, and it's beautiful. I've heard our brother here, from the Minister Farrakhan, as far as doing for self. We taught that, the sister who was speaking about financially being independent, budgeting. We'll talk, my husband would probably do that better, as a matter of fact, but I've heard that, I've heard, thank you, Brother Bia, I've heard, our brother doctor, where did he go? Did he leave? Brother, I am so overwhelmed by your knowledge, brother. I mean, it brings tears to my eyes, because you took it all the way back, you know, to the source. You took it all the way back, and we spoke about the reading aspect and how some of our children are not able to really read like some. You know, when you go back to slavery, they took away the reading from us. You know, so now our mind is shut down from it. So then our children come out later on and they have difficulty with reading, but nobody understands that. They're not dumb. You know, so all related back to what happened to us. I'm at awe at your knowledge. Sister right here, I mean, you're an attorney at law. And, you know, what really didn't impress me too much, I mean, of course, I definitely respect you being an attorney, you know, as being a sister. But what impressed me was your love. When you stood up, I can tell that energy, that love, you know, that you had, that compassion you had for us to be as one, for us to be knowledgeable about what's going on. You know, so that impressed me, and I am just so at awe of this. Felicia, thank you so much. Gaia, wherever you are, thank you so much. It's such an honor to meet you. But this is what I want to say at the end of the day. Because my passion is women. Yes. Okay, we taught in Nation Islam that a nation cannot rise so high. Excuse me, I'm nervous because we're fasting. We're in the holy month of Ramadan. But I got to get this point out. You know, we're taught that a nation cannot rise no higher than its women. So my passion, ever since I was a little girl, has been about women. My mother was an alcoholic. I've seen her get beat up, abused, you know, and that really did affect me. And I've been to shelters with her. I've seen other women that have been in that predicament. And I have a need to help women, especially Black women, because we're suffering from so much pain. You know, whether you are, you know, being abused, whether you're being disrespected, calling it B-I-T-C-H, whether you lost your man to another woman, whether you're running around here with babies that you're trying to take care of, we're suffering from pain. Whether you have a child that's on drugs, that's pain. You know, all the pain that we're experiencing as women, I really, really, really want us to get together as women to not only go over the pain, but give solutions on how to get through it. So we're putting together a panel November 22nd. It's going to be at Betty T. Ferguson Park. Okay, we have more details, you know, coming forth, but we really want all of the women in this room to please. I know we have a list of all. Thank you. I know we have a list of everybody that's in the room, but we want a separate list for just the women. And we want, believe me when I tell you, we're going to be calling you to not only come to this event, but to see what you can do to help put this on, to help make it the way that we need it to be. We're calling the whole theme of this panel is called A Healing for Hagar. And I know this is my time, I'm just going to be really quick. Hagar, if anybody knows this scripture, Hagar was running in the wilderness with her son Ishmael, and she only had to depend on Allah to support herself and her children. Well, how many women out here are Hagars? A lot of our women, I won't say most, but yeah, maybe most of us, not all of us, but most of us are Hagars. Our sisters are out here, we're fending for ourselves, we're trying to do what we can, we're trying to make a living. Most of us are pulled out of our home because we gotta work. You know, our children are being raised by the television. That don't mean we don't love our children, but it's hard. Our women are suffering. So this theme is A Healing for Hagar. So my time is up. I know I'm just going to put together a list of all the women. If you want to know more detail, you know, please leave your number by that list. And we'll call you individually and give you more detail. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sis, and I'm so glad you touched on women. That's a passion for most.
I want to say something real quick after as well.
So we welcome that, and we'll go ahead and make a list for you. Have it passed around. The brother Chauncey wants to say something real quick. Then you can add, and then Dr. AK is gonna. Oh, Judy wants to. Okay. I'm sorry, Sister Judy.
And I wanted to say something.
Yes. Well, we have Dr. AK has a school, and he's gonna say something about the school to you all, just to get you all abreast of what's happening with the school. So go ahead, Dr. AK, and then we'll come back to the floor.
Definitely. First off, let me invite my Katangu. That's my elder brother. Let me invite him here. And I would, that's Katangu. That's my elder brother. I am Agbeku Kwesi Vikwa Hitotosu, initials AK. They only call me AK when you get my name right. Ndugu Jonathan, Dada Carla, Ndugu Patrick, our good brother here, Mzee William, he had to go, Kakangu, Jehedi, yes? Our sister, Dada Hyacinth, who had to go, our sister there, I know. All right. Now, Dada is Swahili for sister. Ndugu is Swahili for brother. Kakangu is Swahili for elder brother. Mzee is Swahili for senior or elder. Now, my people, this is my brother here in Google, myself at Beku Kwesi. We talk about Kwa Taifa, and that is for the nation. You have to understand us as a people of a nation. We are not a community.
Come on.
Okay? We are not, once again, a community. We are a nation. What is my work? My work is to lead people in the direction of Al-Kabulan. Now, if you don't know what the name Al-Kabulan is, you will get to know. You see, the thing here is, we talk about black, we talk about all these color codes, all these minorities, all these terminologies. It is time to divorce, actually, castrate ourselves from the Eurocentric narrative. Because your mind only goes in the direction of your narrative. So if you have a Eurocentric narrative, that is where your mind is going, and where your mind goes, your life goes. So what my brother and I have put together is an institution. It is not an initiative. It is a responsibility. An institution through the charter system. Now, if you all don't know what the charter system is, it means tuition free. That means our children are not paying tuition. It is an elementary school going to be K through 8, and then we are going to go all the way to the 12th grade level. Now, we talk about education. Education is synonymous for information. What we have been receiving as a people here in this part of the world for 468 years to be exact, has been information to keep us in servitude.
Right.
When our good brother talks about spirituality and information, it is a dichotomy. It is within the sense of our essence of our being. So, we are opening the elementary school this August. We are enrolling K through 1. Kindergarten and first grade. We are beginning this August. Kindergarten, I'll repeat, and first grade. Our whole premise is to make sure there is a standardized curriculum for the people of Al-Kabulan.
Yes, sir.
Across not just the United States, but throughout the world. Since I to me, I just switched my language to a language called Twi. What I said is, right now I can speak Twi, but I know you're not hearing what I'm saying. You're not understanding what I'm saying, but you're hearing. So the whole thing is, where do we want to move to when we are not willing to learn? A lot of people want to do things, but they don't want to learn. If you're not willing to learn about Al-Kabulan, what we serve is a caricature. Haiti, Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Turks and Caicos, being African American, all those are caricatures of Eurocentricity.
That's right.
All those 54 regions they call countries in Al-Kabulan, they are all caricatures of Eurocentricity. So what Maruke International School of Self-Knowledge, that is the name of the school, Maruke International School of Self-Knowledge, is going to teach. It's about self. Because you cannot live beyond your self-image. Yeah. And so when you talk about 1 + 1, 1 + 1 is always 1. But knowing 1 + 1, you can also build a bomb to blow up people. That does not mean that you don't have knowledge. But what is it serving? It's not serving the people. And as my brother Patrick said, in this simplicity, this is going to happen in a large scale, beginning with a small seed. It's either you contribute to it, or you get out of the way, or we're going to put you out of the way. There's a meeting tomorrow at the Named African American Library. I purposely say the Named African American Library. I normally say the so-called. All right. It is at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. at the Named African American Library. And then we are also giving, our good sister Sewa is passing out a notice of that. And we are also giving this now enrolling flyers. Please take 3. If you are seriously going to give it to people you know who have children, kindergarten or the first grade level, or if you also have children, we are enrolling. So get these people, these our people, mobilized in that context. And I know my brother is going to say something because I normally set the premise and then he concludes. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be brief. And I want to acknowledge, first of all, 2 people who really put an incredible event together besides the event in Hidden Colors, Keisha and Gael for this place and having the leadership for the follow-up. It's really interesting that even in our history, it has been women who have been the foundation of the nation. And that's what we're seeing right here. Women are taking the leadership role and leading this nation to where it needs to be. We've heard a lot of incredible information. I was just taking notes all left and right and just kind of absorbing it. I couldn't contain it all. But what I got from what AK said was that we have to shift our minds from this concept of community to realizing that we are part of a bigger nation. There are people from the Nation of Islam here. There are people who are Baptists here. There are people who are Catholic here. But all of us are part of one nation. And together, that's what we got to do. We got to actually join hands and realize that we are one nation. And therefore, we have, as a nation, whenever a nation gets to the point where it succeeds, it has one focus. What exactly is it that we see for our nation? We have to define that. Unless we define ourselves as that nation and we create that definition for ourselves, we cannot succeed. And again, I want to really emphasize and say thank you for Keisha and Gael for taking the leadership role of just putting the foundation down, and it's up to us to build up from that. Thank you so much.
Asante sana.
Thank you so much. Jonathan, you want to say? Oh, sorry, Sister Judy, you had your hand up? Chauncey?
Sorry, sister. Somebody asked this good madam asked me a question. Is it K through 8? Yes, we are licensed right now K through 8. Let me clarify that. We are licensed K through 8, but we are starting K and 1. And then we're going to add on a grade level each year. Okay? Because once again, we are nurturing leaders.
Yes.
This is not a school that is getting children to go get a job. No, we are nurturing leaders. So it's very intimate. Okay? When people come out of this school, when children come out of this school, they are going to be speaking 5 different languages from Al-Kabulan. Okay? And 3 different foreign languages. The foreign languages are the English, French, Spanish, Mandarin, and Arabic. Those are foreign languages. So we are going to set things very straight. We are nurturing leaders. Okay? But we're starting this year K and 1. Okay? That's the clarification.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. AK, for that. We're going to go ahead and spend a few minutes. We're well beyond our 6 o'clock time period. But there are a few people in the audience who want to. Brother Chauncey, I know you want to say something.
Yeah, I'll be real brief.
So, yes. Okay, then you'll go after me.
Yeah, I'll be real brief.
First of all, I want to thank Keisha, I want to thank Gael for putting this event together. It's an incredible event. I want to thank all of the panelists for taking the time out of their busy schedule to come here and disseminate information. So an applause for everybody for briefly, I just want to say, for those who don't know, my name is Chauncey Smith. I am the CEO and founder of my company, Great Men of God Media, LLC. I started the company back in 2012. My vision was just like this. I wanted to provide a platform for untapped talent. Each and every one of us have an untapped talent. People in African descent, people in the black community is what I cater to. So these are one of the initiatives I'm trying to set forth. My background is I've been in the business as far as social media, as far as information technology for the past 14 years. I have a degree in business administration. I have a degree in computer science, and I have a whole bunch of certifications in IT such as VMware, Citrix, Cisco, things of that nature. So I'm well versed in technology. I'm well versed in social media. So if you have a local business, this is something I can help you with as far as promoting your business through social media. That's what I specialize in. One of the events that we kicked off, for those who weren't aware, was the Hidden Color screening this past Thursday in Ferguson. It was a sold-out event. Yes, it was. Standing room. Yeah, it was standing room. Only people were sitting down on the floors. People were still coming in after 9 o'clock. We started the show at 6 o'clock. People were still coming in at 9 o'clock to watch the show. Yes. So we plan on having more events just like that. We plan on having another screening for Hidden Color Street in the near future. My information is in the bag, and also Keisha will have my information once we make that announcement. Also, another thing I want to touch upon is we're going to have another screening of a movie entitled Urban Kryptonite, which is by Dade Vuai. You can just Google that title, Urban Kryptonite with the K, and the movie trailer will pop up on YouTube. That basically is dealing with health and wellness. This is something that Jonathan covered very well, as well as Sister Fatima Shabazz, who was at the Hidden Color Street premiere. That's something that I want to touch upon, because one of the 3 things that our community needs, as far as my opinion, is economics, health and wellness, and knowing our knowledge of African history. Those are some of the 3 things that we need to know about. So those events I plan on kicking off and making sure that they are available to you guys all. And like I said, be on the lookout for more information from Keisha and myself. And we're going to just continue to have these kind of events, because this is what we need for our community. This is what we need, and this is something that we definitely need to have more regularly as far as having monthly meetings like this. So I appreciate you guys for coming out, and definitely be on the lookout for more information from me and myself and Keisha Bowers and Guy. Yes. All right.